Guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is November 22nd, 2020. We have an excellent show for you today. We're also pet sitting for some dogs, obviously. Holly is still here, but that's okay. She's a good girl. So Boris Johnson and Prince Charles have kind of gone all in on the Great Reset. We're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about some election stuff here in the U.S. We can't not talk about that. Sidney Powell has said that whatever is coming out this week is going to be biblical. Biblical. And I love that term. And you know what that means to a Christian? That means like Sodom and Gomorrah, fire burning of cities. Okay, that's how God does biblical.
Yeah, so I got to start out here because I've been fit to be tied. It seems like every time there's like a great movement push in one direction, then there's a push in another direction. What we are fighting here, you're going to watch. I want you to watch my whole program. I want you to share this program with your friends and your family who are wondering, what dystopian world have I entered into? Well, right. You have been programmed to be in this world since you were a kid in public school. We've been trying to talk to you guys about it, and not enough Christians got their kids out of public school, so here we are, okay? And now you're waking up. It's a little bit too late. It's a little bit like you've been on a trip to Mars and you've been sleeping, and the rest of us been trying to wake y'all up on the trip to Mars, and then you wake up and you're like, we're at Mars. How do we get here? We're like, we have been trying to tell you. They have put us on ships and have been taking us to Mars. And now we are here, and now you're like, oh, now I gotta fight these bad guys who took me to Mars. Yeah, we gotta get back to Earth, baby. Okay, we got the program, we got the space shuttle. We're going back to 1776. We're going back to getting our country right. We're gonna change the world. Okay, but we are at a pivotal moment where we're talking about the Great Reset. We're gonna talk about 2030. We're gonna talk about Build Back Better. Do you recognize right now that the global elites are all on board with this Build Back Better? That is Joe Biden's campaign slogan. That is Boris Johnson's campaign slogan. That is the European Union's campaign slogan. That is Justin Trudeau's campaign slogan. And if you don't recognize what side you need to be on, I cannot help you. But this program will help you. For people who may be on the fence, who don't know what to do, I will give you tools on what to do. But the first thing you got to do is, we're at Mars, baby. Y'all got to wake up. Y'all got to wake up. You've been calling Alex Jones a conspiracy theorist. UN. The FEMA camps and things like that. Do you recognize that there are leftists on the internet, that there are journalists, qualified journalists on mainstream media saying that after this election, if Joe Biden is president, they're going to have to reprogram us like after World War II, because Republicanism under Donald Trump is such a threat to the world, and it is a threat to the new world order. We have played clip after clip after clip of the Bushes and the Cheneys and all these people talking about a new world order, a new reset. The World Economic Forum comes out and says your world's going to be better out 2030, and you won't own anything. But I have good news for you right now. There are some people. I've got some great journalists, the Rebel News in Canada. I got great journalists on Sky News with the Outsiders and Rita in Australia. We have people who are woken up. Hungary is not putting up with this stuff. Poland is not putting up with this stuff. And we here in America, do you realize that the lines are drawn and you now get to pick a side? Whereas before, I could give you maybe you didn't know, maybe you couldn't see. But after this, if people don't see, that's their own deal. But I got good news for you. Because the spirit of 1776 is the spirit of power of God, and He is not going to let this country go under. And we just celebrated the 400-year anniversary of the Pilgrims, who left everything, and came to this country with a 500-year plan, okay, for a country that would be built on religious liberty. And then God blew their little boat away from the Virginia colony, the 1619 Project, okay? And they landed on their own shores, where they created their own self-government. It was called the Mayflower Compact. I've got it here up on my wall right here. And we underwritten the subjects of our dread sovereign King Lord James, by the grace of God in Great Britain, having undertaken for the glory of God and the advancement of the Christian faith and the honor of the king and country. And they set down the very first self-government, and they picked a leader. He died. And then they had to pick another one, and it was William Bradford. He served for many years, a long time, like 40 years, as governor, because he just kept doing a good job, but they voted him in. They tried communism. Okay? They tried to, every person was given an allotment of what they all did together, and it didn't work. Socialism didn't work. The allotment of every man according to his ability, according to his need, didn't work, baby. But I'm going to tell you what did work. You get your plot of land, you get to keep it, you get to sell what you, when the British boats come and you trade, you get to sell. And guess what happened? The colony flourished. That's what called free market capitalism without the crony capitalism. Okay? And then you know what happened? Because their hearts were right and their hearts were good and they sought God, then they began to share. That is the basis of good government, to where you work hard, you keep what you have, and you go to God and you share. And you don't keep more than you need, especially when when you have 2 coats and your neighbor doesn't have 1 coat, then you give your neighbor a coat. The government doesn't come and take them from you and then disperse it. That's called communism. That's called socialism, and it doesn't work. But the only way a free government works is with the religious and moral people who do not take advantage of other people. And we have crony capitalists, big tech, big pharma. These people have monopolies around the world. And you know what? They don't get to operate in this free market capitalism because they aren't led by the power and the Spirit of God. So they need to be trust busted. They need to have their monopolies busted, okay?
Did you just make that up?
No, that's a word.
Trust busted?
No, that's a thing.
I've never heard of that.
No, that's a thing.
I know what it means. I get it, but I've just never. It sounds really catchy.
When big corporations
broke
it up. Standard Oil was broken up. They had a monopoly. Oh, and by the way, Standard Oil helped fund the Nazis, but that's a whole nother ballgame. So I'm going to piece together a show for you to show you what they plan on doing, what they are implementing on doing. And the only man standing in the way...
I don't think you meant that way. Implementing. They're just implementing, not implementing
what they
on
plan,
doing. What they're planning on doing to and implement. What they are attempting to implement.
Exactly. Thank you. Michelle fixes my words because the words are in my head and I don't have a mouth that works fast enough.
Right.
Okay. What they plan to do and what they are already implementing. Okay? Number one. With the coronavirus, it's real. People are getting it. But it's not as big of a deal as they are making it out to be. Making people wear masks is beyond stupid. And I know that if Donald Trump is not elected, my sentence was, there's one man standing in the way. His name is Donald J. Trump. But it's more than one man. 74 million people voted for Donald Trump. Okay? And then there's millions of people around the world. And in every great movie, okay, Hunger Games especially, the elite have everything. They have the FBI, they have the CIA, they have the DOJ, they have all the systems.
Yeah,
but they don't have the people, and the systems only operate by the consent of the governed and the consent of the people. And so we have to learn from Nazi Germany and the Jews. There were more Jews than there were Nazis.
How many times have we said that?
If they had organized and risen up and fought, I read a wonderful, enlightening book about the Holocaust, where a young man who had been in 3 different concentration camps, when it was their turn to go into the crematorium, and I don't mean to say anything harshly against the Holocaust victims.
Right.
But they didn't say, well, there's about 100 of us, and there's about 4 or 5 guards.
If we rushed them,
we're gonna die. We're gonna die. But you know what? We're gonna take these guys with us.
And I think though,
and if that had happened, and you organized, and you begin, and you've got, and here's the thing: when you're in the midst of such evil, satanic evil, you go crazy. You can't think of anything hopeful. You can't think of a way out. Now, there are great stories though, where people did get out, where people did fight back.
Yes.
But what they didn't have was the ability. If they had, like, let's say the internet. If the Jews had the internet,
yeah.
Do you believe that they would have, that millions of them would have died. They would have been able to coordinate. Okay, this is a battle that's not going to be fought with flesh and blood. Okay, this is thank God, but you got to engage. This is a cyber battle,
right?
Where people are being killed. Alex Jones has been killed on the cyber, but he's still alive. That's the cool thing about cyber, right? Laura Loomer, Gavin McGinnis, they keep trying to kill Candace Owens. Great thing, you get like 9 lives here in cyber world, right? And there are people who capitulate and go along with the system, sometimes turning in their fellow conservatives, turning their back, not saying a word. Oh, and it's okay now that Joe Rogan had on Alex Jones, so Tim Pool can have on Alex Jones. But Tim Pool and Candace Owens and all these people became famous on Alex Jones' show. But then, because Alex Jones wasn't allowed to be talked about anymore, he was that kooky conspiracist guy, everybody backed away because they didn't want to go down the ship with Alex Jones. How wrong is that? We never did that. We don't capitulate like that. Okay? And you know who's helping save this country? You know who is standing up? I mean, Rand Paul was on Alex Jones. Ron Paul was on Alex Jones. Nigel went on Alex Jones. Tony Schaefer went on Alex Jones. Everyone who was everyone in the conservative world went on Alex Jones just like they would Glenn Beck. Okay? And Glenn Beck, Alex Jones isn't any crazier than Glenn Beck. Okay? But Glenn Beck, he capitulates more, but he's not.
I want to hit on something really quickly because it's important when it comes to the Holocaust victims, and you talk about them standing in line to be cremated, and they just went along with it. All right, you don't know what it's like until you're in that situation.
Absolutely.
But they had their minds broken down,
right?
And it started out as something small. Wear this mask.
Wear this mask.
Wear this star.
Wear this star.
Okay? So that's why it's so important that we do not succumb now in these seemingly harmless stages. What is it? Just wear the mask. I hate that. Just wear the mask. Well, guess what? Just wear the star. You're Jewish, just wear the star.
Yeah.
That leads to, I'm going to be in a line, my brain is going to be so broken, and I will walk into the gas chambers. So no, I'm not going to just wear the mask. You have to give sympathy to those victims because they had been so broken down, and that's why we aren't allowing that to happen.
I would say
now.
95% of every person would have just done the same thing.
Yes.
When you're broken down and you're broken down and you're broken down and you don't have food and you can't, you're literally starving to death. Your brain doesn't even work anymore. Here's the thing: who thought it was okay in Germany that Jews would only get 400 to 800 calories a day?
And
the Germans knew that.
That's why they kept them hungry and starving, and a lot of times they were naked and cold because it breaks down the mind.
Right. And it breaks down the people's mind to say that it's okay to force people to wear a mask. It's okay to, make sure that you don't feed a Jew. Only give them 400 to 800 calories a day. Come on now. Now, here's
we have
another
a big show here. Here we go.
No, but this leads up to this.
I'm with you.
Freedom Pass. Boris Johnson wants to introduce COVID passports so that you can operate. You could go see your mom and dad. You could go to a nursing home. If you test yourself for COVID every day, almost, you have to have 2 negative COVID tests, and then you would be given a certificate. You would be given an app on your phone so that you wouldn't have to wear a mask. You could go into nursing homes. You could operate in daily life. And then if someone came up to you and said, "What are you doing without a mask?" you would bring up your phone or your I'm not wearing a star. I'm not a Jew. I'm not one of, you have people, you have doctors who are saying anybody who denies COVID should be denied medical treatment. What if we deny that we landed on the moon? Should we be denied brain surgery because our brains aren't worth saving? There's a lot of people who believe the earth is flat. Should they not be able to get in an airplane and fly around the globe? The British government will reportedly introduce freedom passes and specialized passport certificates. This is beyond okay. This is beyond scary. Okay, freedom passes. Who have tested negative for the Chinese coronavirus, as Prime Minister Boris Johnson is set to announce further regional lockdown restrictions following the end of the latest national lockdown. Guess what they want to do? The government wants to give you 3 or 4 days for Christmas, but But, that is only in exchange for being locked down the entire month of January after that. You understand, I need you to get something, because Boris Johnson is a globalist who has, at first, he knew to just let the thing go through the system, just like Sweden. Now, here's the thing. Leah and Michelle.
Let me have this.
We came back, we came to you with coronavirus, talking about it, telling you it was real, okay, when nobody else would. And then all of a sudden, things switched. And we began to see that what they were doing here with, maybe she needs to go to the bathroom.
She might need to.
Okay.
It's a spray bottle. It's just water. It's her owners use. They do that at home when she gets crazy.
All right. The British Prime Minister will outline his plans for further localized lockdown restrictions on Monday, as well as a plan to introduce mass testing in what the government is describing as a roadmap to some sort of normality next year. Okay, we're all waiting. We would have normal life if Donald Trump were not contesting this election. We were headed on the way out of coronavirus. The reason for the lockdowns, the reason for the masks is all about this election. I have to tell you, because it has worldwide implications. That is why we are not going to let go. That's why we can't let go. That's why we're relying on the power of God, because we realize that they are bigger than us, but they're not bigger than God. The new normal that the British government is set to outline will reportedly include freedom passes for those who have 2 negative coronavirus tests per week. The government is also working with passport manufacturers to create coronavirus certificates for those that can prove they are free of the virus. The immunity certificate would be stored on people's phones after they receive a letter, card, or document from the government on testing negative for the virus. Remember, guys, as I'm going through this, please subscribe to our Resistance Chicks channel, and please subscribe. Go to our resistancechicks.com, sign up for our newsletter. Find us on PARLER. We are both Masfaith3 and Resistance Chicks on PARLER. We are on BitChute. We are on Rumble. Because I'm telling you guys something. Things are going to get crazy in January. And there might be a moment where you can't find us. And you will need to find us, because I will have information for you. I will always have information for you. Okay? The immunity certificate would be stored on people's phones after they receive a letter, card, or document from the government on testing negative for the virus. It is thought that the pass will permit Britons to see members of their families. You can see your family now, thanks to the British government. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Which is largely banned at the moment, as well as being able to travel without a mask. Because, if you have 2 negative tests in 1 week, you couldn't get it like the next day, or the next day, or the next day. The source told the paper that the certificates would allow someone to wander down the streets free. And if someone else asks why they're not wearing a mask, they can show the card, letter, or app. I see a great underground network for this. I see a criminal racket ready for fake apps and fake certificates. I would not be ashamed to get one myself. Adding that it would permit a person to see their family, and normal social distancing rules will not apply. It is not clear at the time of this reporting whether the government will be handing out the freedom passes to those who have been vaccinated, but that is on the docket. The idea of so-called immunity passports was first floated by the British government in April, with Health Secretary Matt Hancock saying at the time, "We are looking at an immunity certificate for antibodies and things as such as this." I believe Michelle and I had it, but you know what? I wouldn't take your stupid certificate anyway. On Monday, Prime Minister Johnson will inform the British public that following the national lockdown on December 2nd, England will revert back to a regional tier lockdown system. It is believed, however, that many areas will actually face stricter lockdown restrictions than they did under the previous tier system, with the government's SAGE group of scientists calling for more stringent measures. The plan will also reportedly outline the regulations surrounding family Christmas gatherings, so regulations for your family Christmas, which are expected to be limited in regards to how many family members from different households can meet to celebrate the holiday. Gavin Newsom has showed you exactly how many people can get together. Well over 6 families have got together for Gavin Newsom's California $400 plate dinner, where they did not social distance, where they did not wear masks. You don't really
need to get that close to the mic.
Okay, so we already know how to go about our lives, which is just to go about our lives, Gavin Newsom. and everyone else on the elite. This is all a game to play with our minds.
Okay, so I need to interrupt you here real quick. Because here's the deal. One of the reasons why you guys have flocked, it's a weird, very strange necklace, have flocked to our channel because we are bringing you hope and joy. And here's the deal. I'm seeing some comments. Can we have a little bit less doom and gloom and all this, that, and the other?
If you don't know what they're going to do,
we have to talk about what they are going to, what they are trying to do. You can't stick your head
in the ground for an ostrich. Here's the thing. If you don't know what to fight, you won't know how to fight.
Right. Now, so I want to be clear as we talk about this, that we are stronger and we will prevail. And their scheme, God has planned this whole thing out and is allowing them to build it up to this massive crescendo before it comes crashing down. But it doesn't mean that we don't talk about what they are trying to do. So we will try and attempt to do through our show throughout is to constantly remind you that God is in control. Because I've got a comment here from I think Carrie says, okay, this scares me. I have been having dreams of the same things that you are talking about and wake up terrified. No one seems to understand how a Biden administration terrifies me.
No. We completely understand.
You don't need to be terrified when God is in control. But what wisdom says is, if that were to happen, it would be bad. As Christians, we say we're not going to let it happen. And God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. Because once they can get you into fear, that's how they get you to start doing the things that you fear they're going to try to get you to do.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to, as best you can, to stay out of fear. And we will try on our show as best we can to present what they are attempting to do to you and not instill fear. Okay, because I've been shutting off any news program that talks like, if they say what Biden is going to do and what the Biden administration is going to look like, boom, I'm turning it off. I'm not listening to that garbage. I don't need that kind of stuff in my life. Okay. But we are going to give you what the World Economic Forum and the globalists, all of this is tied together. And so as we continue to talk about them getting exposed and the whole house of cards that they have built, it's going to come crashing down in the most fantastic scene in the world. This all goes with it. The coronavirus, someone says on Facebook, do you think that we will ever see the masks go away? Yes. Okay, this is all for a purpose of design.
Okay. Let me explain something one more time. They have the media, they have the DOJ, they have the global elites, but we have the people. What I'm trying to show you is that these people are cuckoo crazy. And you have to know it like it's deep inside your bones.
Yeah.
What I just explained to you about I can't help it. What I just tried to explain to you about the Jewish people. Will they ever let us? Guys, these people don't own you.
Right.
They don't control you. But they only control you because you give them the power to control you. When we, the people, rise up and say, I have these things, they're called the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I have the laws of nature, God written inside of me. Do you understand the spirit of the Declaration of Independence? The reason why you need to read John Locke's First Treaty and Second Treaty of Government. You need to know why governments are instituted. They are for to punish bad people and to reward good people. And when you know it, you can stand and you can fight.
Now, I have to insert something here. Okay?
We can talk about it, but I have so much to cover.
It's important to me when I'm reading the comments from people and I can feel Leah woke up like a dog on a scent. Like I could feel it in her. She's coming after all of this. It's going to sound like she's coming after you guys. You are our viewers. She is the one that you are the ones that she is defending and getting so righteously indignant about. Okay. So please don't receive Leah's today. It's just pure fire. Okay, like it's coming at you. We are fed up with what they have done. They're brainwashing, the fact that they are putting us in fear, the fact that they are trying to take away our God-given rights and liberties. Okay, we are fighting for you guys. So if today's show is a little bit thick, all right, roll with it. Not all our shows are this thick, but today I can tell already it is. So just bear with us. Continue.
Well, and I have to say, the reason, if we're going to Europe, it's a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
Because y'all need more Jesus.
Yeah.
Y'all don't have it there. You can't fight this without the gospel of Jesus Christ. You will lose. But I have good news. I'm fighting for you, so I will win. You need, in the UK, in Poland, and all y'all, you need to be pleading the blood of Jesus over your country. You need to be going in your prayer closets. You need to waken up the Christianity that birthed Western civilization. It was people in their prayer closets, people praying to God, asking for God's deliverance. I'm going to tell you something. If you ask God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, in the name of Jesus to deliver you, he will. And you're at this moment in the UK because you are a godless country right now. Most of your great Christians came over here. Okay? And then we had a bunch of commies come over here and brainwash our kids.
Yeah.
But there's enough Christians here who are praying, who are in our prayer closets, that we will win. God always hears the prayers of his people. Right. But you got to know what they're doing. Okay. So, Boris Johnson went globalist. And I'm sorry. He went globalist. And you need to know this. He says, after all we have been through, it isn't enough to just go back to normal. We have lost too much. History teaches us that things of this magnitude, wars, famines, plagues, events that affect the vast bulk of humanity, as the virus has, they do not just come and go. They can be a trigger for economic and social change. Look at these trigger words. Economic, social change, sustainability, build back better. When I heard Johnson utter these words, this is from the European Times here. Where have I heard this before? Well, the answer is in the book of COVID-19, The Great Reset, by Klaus Schwab, the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, and Thierry Malleret. They too, like Johnson, invoked the Second World War as a trigger for fundamental changes, not only for the global order and the global economy, but to society and the way human beings interact with one another. Like Johnson, they don't want to return to normal. Many of us are pondering when things will return to normal. The short response is never. Instead, Schwab and Malleret want a world changed forever by a virus which they admit is only mild compared to others in history. COVID-19 is seen as the catalyst of the fourth industrial revolution. As to where all this is headed, I recommend you read Schwab's The Great Reset and his earlier The Fourth Industrial Revolution. But please don't do so late at night because it will probably give you nightmares. Schwab's elitist Davos man utopia is a transhuman, socially distanced, utterly soulless dystopia from the rest of us. Do you understand why they're shutting down small businesses? Because they want to go to all cryptocurrency, all digital currency. They want to digitize everything you own. It sounds crazy because it is, and you may laugh at it because it will not happen, because the human spirit is greater and you cannot make us into robots. Klaus Schwab, we will not be them. Okay, you guys asked the faux Democrat why the push for the transgenderism, all the genders, to decrease the population, to limit social acting. The reason for COVID-19 is to limit social interaction. The reason they are trying to censor us on the media is to limit social interaction so that all your information comes down from a cloud, from the powers that be. But we humans find a way. Did you ever see Jurassic Park? Life finds a way, okay? The human spirit beats these guys. We have the trump card. We have the human spirit. We have the power of God. And what I'm trying to do in the show is tell you and show you how to use your trump card, which beats it every time.
Notice how I was thinking about this today when I was passing my cousin's church. I was walking past it this afternoon, and there was no one there. It was early. It was late morning. And I'm like, they should be having service. There were some cars, a couple of cars in the parking lot. They're probably doing like a Zoom, you know, church service or whatever, however they do that online. And I got to thinking about COVID-19 and how the goal of this, in part, was to get rid of churches. Just altogether, because church buildings can't exist if people aren't tithing and giving to these buildings. They won't be able to maintain.
That's why they want to shut down Thanksgiving and Christmas, because they're Christian.
They are trying to, and so it's okay to talk about what they are attempting to do, and they may be mildly successful with some churches and with some families, but their whole goal to get rid of churches, to get rid of Christianity, to get rid of Thanksgiving, to get rid of Christmas is so preposterous. The fact that they think that they could do it means that they don't understand why we have those things.
Here's the thing.
And it's so within us. It's so deep within us that we will never let it go.
Okay. I don't want to terrify you. There is no reason for terror here. Because just like the gender ideology, 75% to 80% of people, at least...
Yeah, where nobody's buying this garbage.
Know that there are two genders.
Right.
And when I expose how far crazy they are and how... Here's the thing. I'm getting emails and private messages from people about the Great Reset for people like, well, this is really crazy. Okay? You need to... This is actually a very happy show. Because the more they show they're crazy, the more people come to our side.
Yeah.
So when I show the crazy, more people come to our side. They're really crazy. More people come. They're really crazy. More people come. So actually, when I see that they are out and out saying,
exactly,
Great Reset,
bingo,
and Build Back Better, this is actually a good news for me. This is a great show for me. Because the only way we win is if they are exposed. They've been doing this stuff for 100 years in secret. And we haven't been able to pin them down. They've been jumping all over the place like fleas.
Right.
But now their flea has turned into a room full of rats. And all we need to do is trap them and expose them.
Right.
Do you understand that this level crazy with Klaus Schwab saying that he wants transhumans to be partial robots?
Can we not?
And
hey, listen.
Hey, stop.
There's 3 dogs. They all want to be right here at our feet.
When Klaus Schwab says that he wants to put chips in everybody's brain and kind of turn everybody into robots, that is so preposterous that even people who might be on the left are like, no, Jack, we ain't signing up for that. So then you have people who will flock to your side. So the more...
That's why Donald Trump won in a red wave.
So when
they went
when
so
we
far
talk
to
about
the
how
other side.
crazy... Here's the thing. If Boris Johnson was doing all this stuff in secret and he wasn't telling you about the Great Reset and telling you about, all this stuff, you've seen the people in the streets. Okay? Here's the thing. There's not enough of them. And there's not enough military and there's not enough police to enforce their rules.
Right.
When you have enough of the people who say, I'm not going to do it, it's unenforceable. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the man who justified a national lockdown in March on a purely temporary 3-week basis to flatten the curve and protect the NHS, and who said in the summer, after the lockdown had lasted 3 months, that he hoped Britain would return to significant normality by November, now tells us we have been through and hardship just to settle for the status quo, to think that life can go on as it was before the plague, and it will not. We are resolving not to go back to 2019. For Johnson, using the globalist phrase "build back better," which is Joe Biden's phrase as well, everybody's on this, and that's good news. That's good news when they show their cards. Here's the thing, guys. If you're playing a poker game and somebody puts their cards on the table, then you know exactly how to bet on your cards. Okay?
That's really good.
This is the time to launch Britain into the 4th industrial revolution, from internet shopping to working from home. They don't want your small businesses. No, Jack. We want small businesses, and you and I have to fight for those small businesses. It means shopping in small businesses. It means supporting small businesses. Okay? When you know what to do and how to put your dollars and your voice, then you will beat them. We will beat them when we come together and we know how to do it. Tommy Robbins is another person they tried to unperson. You need to follow him on Parler. He's fiery there.
Carol says, you're fine, Leah. I haven't lost hope. I feel bad for people who don't see the agenda. I actually fell for a lot of stuff, but I did wake back up, and there is no turning back.
Wake it up. When you're awake, you win.
Yes.
You only lose when you're asleep. It looks as though COVID has massively accelerated changes in the world of work. As old jobs are lost, as new ones are created. The COVID crisis is a catalyst for change because it was created to be. Did Schwab actually write his speech? It looks like it. Although Johnson didn't use the phrase the fourth industrial revolution, he did mention a green industrial revolution twice. Johnson foresees a future in which every home in Britain relies on wind power. He certainly produces a lot of that. And instead of being dragged on big commutes to the city, people can start a business in their own hometown, which would actually be great. You want that to happen, but not according to their plan, okay? And bring up their children in neighborhoods where they grew up themselves. That is a really great idea, and that is a great ideal, but the way that they want to implement these things is no bueno, okay? Working from home is here to stay with gigabyte broadband, shopping from home, and conferencing from home. In fact, let's do everything from home. Who needs to meet another human being? Not that there'd be anywhere to meet with pubs, cinemas, and theaters all closed down due to the never-ending coronavirus restrictions. And this is where I want to get you guys excited, because with the globalist elite and their whole plan to change the world, they are actually doing things that is destroying their power. Without Hollywood, they can't brainwash us because very few of us actually turn on any mainstream media. So they brainwash us through entertainment. If we're not flocking to concerts and flocking to movies to hear their next agenda that they have out there, they lose their power.
Right, exactly.
So they're losing their power. And what they didn't count on by having kids at home, as I have a friend in France, a lot of parents are like, well, this homeschool thing is actually kind of nice. I like having my kids around. They didn't think about anything outside of that, which is why the push to get kids back in school now. Oh, we need the kids back in the brainwashing institutions. That's what we need to. Kids need to be back in school, right? And they didn't recognize that when they made people lock down and be at home, that they would the families might actually start to take walks and love one another. There were a lot of good things that came out of those lockdowns that they hadn't anticipated. And actually what happened when they locked everybody down, they weren't being brainwashed by the movies and sports anymore, then they began to focus on this stuff.
Which is, yeah, exactly.
And so they lost their cover. They literally shut down their cover, okay? So they have no cover anymore because their cover is to entertain us like a Pied Piper, okay? People in America aren't watching sports. I don't know anything about sports. Nobody knows anything about sports, okay? They're just focused on this stuff right now, all right? The World Economic Forum, founded by Schwab, has been increasingly influential when it comes to changes we've already seen in 2020 and what is being openly planned for the future. So there's a scripture. All things work together for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So we have a prayer. God, I pray what the enemy has for evil that you turn around for good.
Amen.
There's scripture that says that the pit that they dig for themselves, that they will fall in. And there's also the story of Esther where Haman built these gallows for Mordecai. And then Haman got hung on the gallows that he built. And so right now, Michelle and I have been talking about this, they're building their own gallows. They're hanging them. They're digging. All this stuff that they're doing right here, when I show you something, it literally is their own pit. It's not we will not go into this pit because the only way into this pit is willingly.
Wow, that's good.
They can't force us in.
Right.
They can't force us in. There's too many of us.
That actually reminds me of when it comes to Christianity and the devil. A lot of people think that the devil has so much more power than he actually does.
Yeah,
the devil, as a Christian, cannot touch you.
Exactly.
The only way he actually ever can touch you is if you let him, if you open a door. But he could be all around you, and if you've got all your doors closed, if you have the armor of God on, he cannot touch you. And that's the same thing with them. They can't push us into this pit. The only way, and that's what's happened within the last 100 years, why things have gotten seemingly worse, or actually have gotten worse, not just seemingly, is because we let it happen, and that's over.
So this is what I love, infighting amongst the globalists here, because China says that Britain will suffer if it continues to stand up to the CCP and lose billions in Chinese investment, warned a Chinese lobby group in the United Kingdom. Wen Jinfeng, the chairman of the China Chamber of Commerce in the United Kingdom, which represents hundreds of Chinese businesses, including Huawei, ZTE, and Air China, threatened that China will throw its economic muscle around should Britain continue to ban Chinese companies. He went on to say that Fang, who also serves as the head of the state-owned Bank of China in the UK, went on to go after the Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Build Back Better green agenda, warning that China could pull its funding from Hinkley's Point C nuclear power plant. They are prepared to make further big, substantial investment in the UK, but they are not waiting to see what decisions the UK government is going to make, adding, "Why do you close the door and send them away? Okay, go and find another partner. The plan to reduce emissions will be heavily impacted." He went on to warn that British companies with large exports to China, such as Jaguar, Land Rover, and Burberry, could face ramifications as well. If the UK continues to be hostile to China, to Chinese companies and goods, what will the public reactions in China be? The public will say, okay, if you don't buy from us, why should we buy from you? So there is definitely an infighting here. Hong Kong Watch founder Benedict Rogers described the threats from Mr. Fang as more bullying by the Chinese Communist Party regime. "We need global coordinated target and robust sanctions against the CCP. We need them now." The chairman of the powerful Foreign Affairs Committee in the House of Commons, Tom Chunjinhat, MP, said the Chinese businesses claim to be independent, but they threaten like the Central Committee of the CCP. "We've seen the same tactics used in Australia. They have stood up to this threat to their sovereignty, and we must too." And then China has spent the last 2 decades dumping millions of pounds of sterling into investment projects in Britain, as well as buying stakes in Heathrow and Thames Water. Do you see the Chinese Communist Party has also sought to gain influence within the British universities through state-backed Confucius Institute propaganda departments on campuses across the country. In May, Huawei, which has been characterized as effectively state-owned, pumped $5 million into the Imperial College in London, the university whose doomsday predictions for the Chinese coronavirus sparked the lockdowns throughout the world. Now, remember this. China came out, and as Matt pointed out, we had people stumbling and falling over, but it wasn't like falling over in a natural way. China wanted the world to think that they had a huge virus that was out of control. I don't know all the ins and outs and why this thing happened, but I know that China only lets things out through propaganda.
Sure.
Okay, I know that the doctors who were whistleblowers, that they died. I do know that there's a Hong Kong virologist who says that this particular virus was actually created in a lab, okay, and spread. There are videos in the United States of Chinese people who were visibly sick, touching things all over, like in Walmart. I don't know why they were doing that, but those videos were around. Some Chinese lady, some Asian lady was buying up all the masks. I don't know why. Maybe it was in an effort to make you think you needed a mask. This is like 5D chess, where I don't know exactly what everybody's trying to do. Because at first it looked like they were trying to buy up the masks so that you would think you needed to wear masks. So there's a lot here to figure out, and you need the Holy Spirit to figure it out. So the Polish Prime Minister says that the EU oligarchy wielding propaganda bludgeon like former communist regime. Poland is standing up. We need to stand with them. They're great. They got the little hussars. Poland's Prime Minister Morawiecki has accused the European Union of wielding a propaganda bludgeon against his country like the communist regime of old. National, conservative-led Poland and Hungary are currently locked in a dispute with the EU establishment, George Soros, and their allies in the international press over their decision to veto the EU's proposed multi-annual budget, which included a substantial coronavirus relief package because provisions requiring member states to follow so-called rule of law and values provisions had been attached. The Poles and Hungarians are being blamed for the budget's failure to pass because of the veto, but they argue that it was not their decision to politicize it by attaching the aforementioned provisions, which they believe would be used to deprive them of funds for refusing to submit to compulsory migrant redistribution quotas or for going ahead with judicial reforms, which the EU opposes. The rule of law has become a propaganda bludgeon in the EU. Says the Prime Minister of the Law and Justice Party. We know that the use of propaganda bludgeons very well from communist times, he recalled, adding that a European Union in which there is a European oligarchy that punishes the weaker and pushes them into a corner is not the EU that we joined. This is not an EU that has a future. Other members of the Polish government are equally robust, echoing arguments previously advanced by the Brexit campaigners in the UK. The establishment in Germany and Brussels is trying to carry out a revolution and create a single European state based in Brussels or maybe Germany.
They've been trying to do that since the end of World War II.
Exactly.
Okay? They had a little slap on the hand. Some people went to jail. Some people committed suicide. But those that still were like, I'm going to continue with my plan 7 years later, or however many it was, they start the European Union. The same exact people that were trying to take over Europe with Hitler decided, you know what, we've been going about this the wrong way. Maybe if we just get people to join, we can have a world takeover. So I want to encourage you that they've been trying to do this for a very long time. It's taken many years to build up, and they still aren't anywhere close to what they have wanted to achieve.
You show them the Polish Hussar, the winged hussars. They're not bowing. They're not bowing. It's our winged hussar. Somebody sent us from Poland. The Poles and Hungarians do have some reason to believe
have, like, wings,
that the EU's dominant powers intended to use any rule of law in the budget to interfere in domestic politics, with European Parliament Vice President Katrina Barley of Germany having suggested they should be starved financially if they do not govern in a way Brussels approves. That is not a representative democracy. That's not what you come together and until you agree with us, until you vote with us, we will punish you. That's not how this thing works.
Right.
Okay? In Brussels today, they only view countries which let migrants in as those governed by the rule of law. Those who protect their borders cannot qualify as countries where rule of law prevails, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban observed over the budget veto. Once this proposal gets adopted, there will be no more obstacles in tying member states' share of common funds to supporting migration and use financial means to blackmail countries who oppose migration. So Hungary is standing up. I want to get to...
It's an awful picture.
I'm sorry. I want to get to Viktor Orban over here.
That's
Hungarian Prime Minister says Soros is one of the most corrupt people in the entire world, and he absolutely is. Fox News, some people are allowed to say his name, and then other people never are allowed to show their face again. It's
right.
Really
Here
weird.
in Resistance Chicks, you're allowed to say his name as many times as you want. It's not like Voldemort.
Soros.
Okay.
Soros.
But...
Soros.
You came to me this morning and you were talking about some people accusing Sidney Powell of being off her rocker and all this, that, and the other, and she's so crazy. And listen,
Soros is crazy.
Sidney Powell.
I know, but he's crazy.
What I'm saying is that's a given. There's a reason why you're not allowed to say his name, okay? Because he might send spirits out to kill you. But we do know that he has a global agenda. And he funds, who knows where he gets all this money, okay? He funds all of these far left, whatever, activist groups. And so when we find out that Soros has a tie to Dominion and one of his subsidiaries had an office, we talked about yesterday on the show.
We're going to talk about that today.
Right next to Dominion. Things that make you go,
Huh.
So anybody out there going, Sidney Powell, oh, she's off her rocker, she's just lost it, yada, yada, yada. I'm going, where have you been?
Yeah.
We know if George Soros is tied to it, it is a global attempt to undermine all democracy. Carry on.
Hungarian's Prime Minister Viktor Orban lambasted billionaire plutocrat George Soros as one of the most corrupt people in the world after he called on the European Union to make Hungary and Poland submit to open society values. George Soros is threatening Hungary and Poland, said Prime Minister Viktor Orban on a radio program Friday, referencing the 90-year-old arch activist public lobbying of the EU to deprive the conservative-led Central European countries of funding. George Soros is one of the most corrupt people in the world. He has plenty of politicians in his pocket who now want to blackmail Hungary and Poland for access to EU funds. The Hungarian leader continued, accusing the billionaire of spreading absurd, beyond the red line statements about his country. Soros had claimed, among other things, that Orban has constructed in Hungary an elaborate kleptocratic system to rob the country blind. The amount by which he has enriched his family and friends is difficult to estimate, but many of them have become exceedingly wealthy in a recent article, not without a certain level of irony considering his own vast fortune and past conviction of insider trading. There's a quote where George Soros says, "If I didn't do it, someone else would have," on insider trading and fleecing America. And you also know...
I thought he said that about if I didn't... I thought he was talking about robbing...
No, that was particularly about the on the stock market and financial things. But he was adopted by a Christian person, even though he was Jewish. And he helped gather up his fellow Jews' belongings while they were put on train cars to go to Auschwitz, and he laughed about it.
I'm sure that quote he is quoted as saying that there.
Michelle, he might have said it there too, but that is particularly when he is talking about his how he got so wealthy. He said, if I didn't do it, somebody else would on the insider trading and the fleecing of stock market.
Well, obviously, if he has that opinion, then he would have had that same opinion, and I'm pretty sure he is.
Hungary and Poland are clashing with the EU establishment. We're talking about this budget here, but to have Soros weigh in just lets you know that you're definitely on the right. On the right side, in the 1989 roundtable talks between Poland's communist and the democratic opposition, then President General Jaruzelski, I'm not going to say it right, Jaruzelski, the man who ran Poland's martial law government for the Soviets, was allowed to nominate an entirely new bench of communist-era judges. And this has been one of the things that the Law and Justice Party has been trying to get those communist judges off. And the EU is saying that they're acting like totalitarians by doing that. That's absolutely insane. To staff the post-communist courts, these judges dominated the Polish judiciary for the next quarter century, and some still remain in place. Poland and Hungary do have some reason to believe the rule of law provisions would have been used as a way of forcing compliance, and we talked about that, to try to starve them into position. George Soros suggested fiscal penalties against those who did not accept migrants. Who is he? Who is he to say anything about anyone? Is he elected to anything? Has anybody put him in a place of position of power? Have the people put him in a place of a position of power? George Soros is not elected, but he has strong-armed his way from the days when he found it. He has been an opportunist since he was a teenager and helped Nazis round up his fellow Jews. This is an evil man. Straight to the core, and he laughs about it. He says he learned things from his childhood. You can go see the video if you want.
It's a 60 Minutes interview.
Yeah. All right.
Kerry says he was asked if it bothered him robbing his own people. He said, no, the way I see it, if I did not do it, someone else would have. Thank you, Kerry.
So, I don't know if you guys saw this this week, but Denmark did a study on the effectiveness of wearing masks. No one has ever done a study like this in the public on wearing masks out in public. I'm sorry, I gotta get this. Every time it keeps coming up. I don't know why I need to shut down the Every Time is really great. It's a little advertisement for them right here. They're putting up hundreds of articles. The results of the world's biggest coronavirus mass studies are in. Denmark did the study. It doesn't do much to support the suggestion of zealots like Joe Biden that they should be made compulsory. According to the Mask 19 study published in the prestigious journal Annals of Internal Medicine, there was no statistically significant difference between the mask-wearing group and non-mask-wearing group. I know a lot of people, maybe, well, it didn't say that they were harmful. So, no, what we're looking at, there's no statistical differences if you're going to get COVID or not by wearing the mask.
But this study can't, and there's really no way to address how it protects other people. We're talking specifically in this study about the efficacy of wearing a mask to protect yourself from getting the coronavirus.
Our results suggest that the recommendation to wear a surgical mask when outside of the home, among others, did not reduce at conventional levels of statistical significance the incidence of SARS-CoV-2 infection in mask wearers in a setting where social distancing and other public measures were in effect. Mask recommendations were not among those measures, and community use of masks was uncommon. Yet the findings were inconclusive and cannot definitively exclude a 46% reduction to a 23% increase in infection of mask wearers in such a setting. It is important to emphasize that this trial did not address the effects of masks as a source control or as a protection in settings where social distancing and other public health measures are not in effect. The study conducted in Denmark in April and May of this year is the largest randomized controlled study on the efficacy of masks against COVID-19 infection. There was a total of 3,030 participants were randomly assigned to the recommendation to wear masks About 2,994 were assigned to the control. 4,862 completed the study. Infection with SARS-CoV-2 occurred in 42 patients, recommended masks, and 53 in the control participants. This between group difference was 0.3 percentage points. The multiple imputation accounting for loss to follow-up yielded similar results, although the difference observed was not statistically significant. What this means is that the results are inconclusive. Fewer mask wearers ended up catching COVID than non-mask wearers, but not enough to demonstrate convincingly that masks make any real difference preventing the spread of COVID. Study limitations included reliance on patient-reported data, inability to blind study participants into the intervention, and the loss of patients to follow up. This is the same study that was mysteriously declined by the world's top 3 medical journalists. One of the study's co-author, Thomas Lars Benfield, hinted that this was because the findings were so controversial that journals don't dare publish them. But now finally the study has been published, and the findings appear to be much blander than Benfield's comment implied. That this has prompted speculation that in order to get their study published, the authors may have removed more controversial findings.
Wow. In
the original protocol for the study, there were a number of other outcomes that they planned to assess. The difference between the 2 study groups and the return swabs, distribution of the face mask users, psychological effects of wearing face masks, psychological aspects of face mask wearing in the community, costs associated with wearing versus not wearing face masks, cost effectiveness analysis on the use of surgical face masks. These and others might have given a more rounded cost benefit analysis of masks, taking into account not just their effectiveness or otherwise as a barrier to viruses, but also potential adverse consequences. So they might have removed the psychological aspect.
Wow.
To whereas how did you feel wearing this? How did this make you feel?
So the data is probably there.
Yeah.
And probably will get released at a later date. And we can be anxiously awaiting that.
So nervous EU nations actually demand no deal planning as the UK progresses on other deals. So France, Belgium, and the Netherlands are reportedly demanding the EU's executive arm publish the bloc's no deal planning as the deadline for agreeing on a deal in the European Parliament looms. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom has been seeing progress on other trade deals with Australia and Canada.
I think that any person involved in this who has a child who waits until 4:30 in the morning to study for one of the most important tests of their lives has no right whatsoever to tell their child that they were wrong and that they had weeks in advance knowing that the test was coming up. Like, you have no right as a parent to tell your child that they should not have done that, because you are complicit in doing you had years, man, years to prepare for this, and you did nothing. Why? And I'll tell you why. Because they're holding out for the last ditch. Like, please, we're just supposed to remain. Who cares what the people voted on?
Yeah.
That's why we're dragging our feet. Some miracle has to happen.
So the EU has been playing hardball with the British in negotiations, particularly in terms of fishing regulation and other disputes over a deal would be arbitrated by the European Court of Justice. The bloc's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, has held off releasing no-deal plans to member states to give the British leverage in ongoing tasks. This is such a child's game. I'm not going to show you because I don't want to give you any leverage with the UK, because, and then remember when I think it was a month or two ago where they're like, I think we might need to recognize that a deal might need to be beneficial to the UK.
Right.
We just can't make it a big punishment. Like, maybe something about it might need to be good for them. They might, you know what I mean? It can't just all be we hate you, UK, and here you're gonna suffer because of the deal. Like,
right.
Maybe we should try that route. And then they were like, no, Jack, forget that. Right? We don't want anybody else thinking that they could leave and making it look good. Right? We have to keep our power, says George Soros.
But, again, I want to do Dr. Steve Turley. The good news is they keep trying. And they keep failing. They're not succeeding at dragging their feet. They aren't succeeding at like everything that they keep trying. They are not doing well with it.
Yeah, so nervous states with the most to lose from a no deal are now pressuring the European Commission to release those papers. Okay, we need to know how this could go down. And the United Kingdom due to leave the EU's institutions on January 1st, 2021, just right around the corner, baby. If they don't have nothing planned, nothing in place. This is what are we doing, man? What are we doing? What are we doing? If there's no deal, the British will trade with the bloc largely on WTO or terms. One senior EU diplomat told the Times on Thursday that we need a safety net. Just they don't have a really good thing on timing.
You could have just had a legit plan and carried it out. There's no safety net.
Of course, this sends out a political signal, but it is high time to prepare people and businesses in case we cannot fix on an agreement in time. It's high time. We got a month to go.
Here's the thing.
I know member states.
Can we just say that it would have made perfect sense to have a plan A and a detailed, ready to go plan B.
Yeah.
Okay? They were holding out for plan A and going, well, if we have to have plan B, then we just throw our hands up and just wing it. Don't get a deal. Here is exactly laid out how we're going to roll with this. Everything's going to be in place, ready to go. Just flip the switch. So they didn't because they don't want to do that.
Yeah, so a lot of member states want to know what the contingency measures are, and they want those out in the open.
It shouldn't be called a contingency measure. It should just be the plan.
Barnier told a meeting of EU commissioners on Wednesday that Brussels and London are in the final push to agree on a deal in time for it to be ratified by the European Parliament in time for the end of the parliamentary session. Thursday, the 19th, was already slated as a deadline to agree on a deal, but the date has passed. Sources have also ruled out that an agreement may be revealed on Monday or Tuesday, but there's no breakthrough on the famous 3 points. Meanwhile, British trade envoy Tony Abbott, a former Prime Minister of Australia, says there is eagerness in his home country to sign a trade deal by Christmas. Mr. Abbott told the Commons International Trade Committee on Wednesday, I know on both sides there's an eagerness to try and get Australian deal done before Christmas, and I hope in the next negotiation session both sides are prepared to pool all their cards on the table so that the best deal can be hammered out. Ideally, a deal between Britain and Australia will involve no tariffs, no quotas, as full as possible mutual recognition of standards and qualifications, and as free as possible movement of people for well-paid work, no welfare. Bloomberg reported on Wednesday that a trade deal between Britain and Canada is actually imminent, with sources telling the news network that the announcement is set to be made in days. Such a trade deal could be a matter of rolling over the EU's deal, the CETA, with Canada. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said last week, I know that rolling over and demonstrating free trade deals is important for the UK government. Canada is really easy one, and we're there for it. We'd like to do it. So we'll see. Right. We'll see what that turns out.
I need to take Holly. They're on their way. Where's her leash?
On the washing machine dryer.
The washing machine dryer.
Yep.
Got it.
So Germany commemorates the 75th anniversary of the landmark Nuremberg trials. 75 years ago, the dock of courtroom 600 of the Nuremberg Palace of Justice was packed with some of the most nefarious figures of the 20th century. Hermann Göring, Rudolf Hess, Joachim von Ribbentrop, and 18 other high-ranking Nazis. They weren't yet known as war criminals. It was a charge that didn't exist until the Nuremberg trials began on November 20th, 1945, in what is now seen as the birthplace of a new era of international law. The proceedings broke new ground in holding government leaders individually responsible for their aggression and slaughter of millions of innocents. In addition to establishing the offense of war crimes, it also produced the charges of crimes against peace, waging a war of aggression and crimes against humanity, whose legacies live on in the International Criminal Court today. Nuremberg was the city where Adolf Hitler reviewed torchlight Nazi Party rallies and promulgated the race laws of 1935 that paved way for the Holocaust. And here's the leading Nazis in the dock on the courtroom in the final stages of war crime trials. Filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl's famous propaganda movie Triumph of the Will, with its sweeping aerial photography and other pioneering techniques, brought the 1934 Nuremberg Nazi Party Congress to the world, with footage of top officials speaking to massive crowds of followers at the Bavarian city's Leitpold Arena and the sweeping Zeppelin Field. The Congress Hall, begun by the Nazis near the parade grounds, was never finished, and today houses a documentation center about Nuremberg's history during the Nazi era. The choice to use the city's Palace of Justice for the trials was less symbolic than pragmatic. The testimony of hundreds of witnesses was heard over 218 trial days. One of them was Rudolf Höss, the Auschwitz death camp commandant, who reacted to the order to slaughter human beings as he would have an order to fell trees. Chief U.S. Prosecutor Robert Jackson and his colleagues also had the Nazis' own meticulous records to work from, quoting document from document in laying bare the workings of the German conspiracy. And on October 1st, 1946, Göring, Hitler's Air Force chief and right-hand man, was sentenced to death, along with 11 others, including Martin Bormann, Hitler's deputy, who was tried in absentee. Bormann is now known to have died in Berlin in 1945 as he tried to flee the Soviets. 7 drew long prison sentences and 3 were acquitted. 15 days later, the condemned men were hanged in the courthouse adjacent prison. Göring committed suicide by swallowing a poison pill in his cell the night before. One of the last surviving witnesses to the trial, Emilio de Palma, died earlier this year after contracting the coronavirus. After fighting the Germans on the front lines during the war, de Palma found himself at the age of 19 being tasked to serve as a guard in the courtroom, where he stood as a witness and at the witness box with his arms clasped behind his back while Hitler's deputies were grilled about their atrocities. To this day, I can hardly believe that any human being could do such cruel things to another. The other day on CNN, they played a clip of Jewish people being persecuted and starved to death. And they compared Donald Trump to Hitler. On CNN. We know that for the past 4 years, we've been called Hitler, we've been called Nazis, we've been called all kinds of things. And yet, here in America, we just had an election where 13 House seats flipped from Democrat to Republican. And there are immigrants, there are more women, and it's the most diverse party that of freshman Congress people that the Republican Party's ever had. You see, under Donald Trump, the world has created a new party. It's not called the Republican Party. You could maybe say conservative. Maybe somebody wants to call it the America First Party, but if it's worldwide, what do we call it? We call it the People's Party. I'd call it the John Lockean Party. Something was birthed. And not simply because of Donald Trump. But Donald Trump led the charge. And one thing my mom has always pointed out, when you know you're innocent, and I know Donald Trump is innocent, I know that whole Charlottesville thing was a setup to try to frame the Nazi frame. That what they accuse you of is what they're guilty of. And so, because they have said over and over again, Donald Trump's a Nazi, he's Hitler, these people are Nazis, and they say it over and over again. It's because, and I hate to say it, but it's coming from their own mouths. That's who they are. When you take over an entire government, and I can use America as an example, but it's worldwide. When you have a sitting president of the United States, Barack Obama, sitting in a room with his vice president, and it says, let's go after General Flynn for the Logan Act. Joe Biden and many other people unmasked General Flynn. They used a fake Steele dossier as an insurance policy, and we know it because we have text messages, as a coup to take down the sitting president of the United States. This is not conjecture. This isn't a theory. It's been proven, and people wonder, why aren't people in jail? Because the people who run the investigations are still there. How are they going to arrest themselves? Peter Strzok, he's been fired. It doesn't matter that he changed a 302 to try to frame General Flynn. Now the DOJ under William Barr said, well, maybe we'll investigate the investigators, and they kind of got this wrong. No, they didn't get it wrong. This was a purposeful. Nazis are fascists. What they believe is that they don't need to be elected, that they don't need the will of the people, and that if the will of the people elect a president, that they have the right to lie and to manipulate. We had Adam Schiff, we had leaders from all over the world saying that Donald Trump was connected to Russia, where he wasn't. And it was a lie, and they knew it was a lie. And they gaslighted the people. But the gaslighting, it goes out. And that's what my show is about. Because, and I don't like to do it because they have overused the term Nazi. They've overused the term fascist. But the only reason that they don't have you and I in concentration camps kicking us, burning us, is because they don't have the power to do that. But they would. That's their spirit. When Nancy Pelosi gets up there and these leaders and George Soros says, I want to starve you financially, Poland and Hungary, he is a fascist. He is a Nazi. He was given the power of Nazi Germany. You see, they've recognized that they're going to fight a different kind of battle. One that isn't done and fought with machine guns and tanks. Because collateral damage. And their own people get hurt. They don't want to die themselves. I'm going to have Michelle bring my battery down. They're killing people and massacring people and silencing people via online. And now they're doing it with the lockdowns. Okay? And so we get to do this thing. It's called being retrospective. Hindsight is 20/20 and learning from our past. They're making us all now the deplorables. We're all the Jews and the gays and the black people that the Nazis rounded up. And wrong thinkers. But we have the power of God. We have the love of God. We have the gospel of Jesus Christ. And here's the thing. Their net isn't big enough for all of us. And we're stronger. And we're smarter. And we've learned. And that's what I want you guys to learn. We have to believe that we serve a God who is just. And I don't need to round these people up and send them to jail. There's a scripture that says his mercies are new every morning and his justice is new every morning. God will bring justice to these people because he is a just God. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, George Soros, the Justin Trudeau's, the Emmanuel Macrons, and now even Boris Johnson. And we're going to get on to Prince Charles, who are trying to control us in such a way. They think that they know how to run our lives and to run us at a global scale. And that's not how this world works. I'm going to go over here and play The Great Reset. These crazy kooks. Absolute crazy kooks. I'm going to run up, and as I play this, I'm going to get my battery and plug myself in. Sky News Australia. Now, sometimes we can be funny, and I wish I was funny all the time, and I get a little serious because these people are so crazy, but Sky News Australia, they know how to have a good laugh at The Great Reset.
Old mate Blackface Trudeau. Now, of course, he was forgiven because he's a lefty. Everyone else has run out of town. Well, old Blackface is out there suggesting, well, he's one of these lefty world leaders who says now is the time under the cover of COVID for the Great Reset, for the Build Back Better nonsense. Essentially, to achieve the entire lefty shopping list, now's the chance for income equality, all the rest of it here. Well, you chant yes, Nicholas Reese. But, you know, the Great Reset, he said the quiet bit out loud, didn't he?
Look, I'm worried about you, Paul. Like, where's your optimism? Where's your hope for the future gone? Like, what is actually wrong with building back better? Like, why can't we learn from this experience and take a step forward as a species, you know, for humankind? What is wrong with tackling inequality? What is wrong with ending poverty? What is wrong with getting on top of climate change? Like, these are the things that humankind should be aspiring to do.
Okay,
If the misery of COVID-19 creates the opportunity for us to do it. Well, I say good on you, Justin Trudeau.
Okay, could we get all three guests on the screen at once here? Could we all see all three guests at once here? Because I need to pick between Rita or Matt about who is hungrier to answer what's wrong with Build Back Better. Senator, you know, you used your name first.
I'm ready to go.
Go for it. Build Back Better.
All right,
what does it
I got the
actually
buzzer.
mean?
I hit the buzzer first. Well, I don't know if Nick's watched the Great Reset video that the World Economic Forum has put out. It's freely available. It's under their logo. They say that by 2030, they don't want anyone to own property. You'll own no property and you'll be happier, apparently. You'll be happy because you're told to be happy. So, Nick, send all your property up to me, because you'll be happier without it. This stuff is crazy, kooky stuff. But it also, Paul, I think it actually does one thing that the World Economic Forum and Justin Trudeau's helpfully doing is this is the real battle line, in my view, in politics here, between those who want to allow people to take control of their own lives and communities and run their own countries, their own states, their own local councils, like in Nicholas's case, the way they'd like to see them run, and those who are pushing for one unified global order that takes away agency or sovereignty from any individual. Because if we have one global order, you're one of about 8 billion people and you can't really control your own environment. Whereas when we invest in smaller communities and give power to local governments, to state governments and to national governments, you can have a lot more influence. And I think we've seen a pushback against the globalisation order in the last 10 years, and I'm very much hopeful to keep pushing back against that, because the more we give power back to local and small governments, the better communities we'll have, the more investment, more vested interest people will have in their own community, and therefore the better decisions will be made.
Rita, I think that the Great Reset, Build Back Better, it's the economic BLM, right? It is the Trojan horse where the bumper sticker is great, but there's an awful lot of nasty in there.
Oh, absolutely. All the stuff that Nicholas said, none of it is going to be achieved by the policies they're advocating. It's absolutely a cynical exercise to use a tragedy, to use a pandemic, a crisis, to further their political agenda, which they've always had. This political agenda wasn't born because of this crisis. It wasn't some moment where they thought, oh, we can do things better. This is what they have been pushing for decades, and they're trying to use this moment, this incredible moment in history to advance that cause. And I think people are pretty smart about what's happening here. This isn't some genuine attempt to bring about end of poverty and equality or anything else that's virtuous that anybody would want.
Yeah, agree completely.
All right. I'm sorry, Paul. I've just got to jump in here because I really again feel for you guys. I mean, what a pack of sad sacks. I mean, what does your bumper sticker say? Build back the same? Like, we should hope
we love coal. My bumper sticker says we love coal. That's what my
bumper sticker says...
I'll send you some bumper stickers.
Yeah, my bumper sticker says honk if you're horny.
I'll level with you, Matt. I'll level with you, Matt. I do carry a candle for you. I reckon you're a great guy, but you seriously, pal, you've been spending too much time on the dark web. You really have, with all that sort of World Economic Forum stuff. Like, you're lost there. You've just you won too many click-throughs on the links there.
At least once a week.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
so let me give you a really
unhealthy.
It's in their own name. They put it out. They put it out.
So let me make it real for you.
So how will you pay for Build Back Better in Melbourne?
Well, yes, let me make it real for you. I'm so glad you asked, Paul. So before COVID-19, on any night in Melbourne, we would typically have around 500 people sleeping rough on the footpaths in the parks of the central city. Now, during COVID-19, they have been put into short stay accommodation, into hotels which are empty, into other accommodation which was available. And we don't, and I don't think anyone in Melbourne wants to see those people back on the street
how are you
sleeping
pay for
rough
it?
again. And so now there's a
So
massive
homelessness
going on and
crisis
building
in
new
Melbourne's
public
over?
housing stock.
Did you
building
just say the
social
homelessness
housing,
crisis
so
in Melbourne's over long term? There will be no homeless on the streets in Melbourne.
Nicholas,
Yeah, I'm not about to
Is
make
that what
a
you're
Bob Hawke
pledging?
style, there'll be no more poverty type prediction.
Yeah,
that's what you
right.
just
But
said.
a huge leap forward in getting
Because
rough
of
sleepers off
COVID,
our
we got
streets
people
and getting
off the
homeless
streets from
people
sleeping on
a
the streets
home.
in Melbourne.
And that's a
Well,
great thing that's happened
so
because
far,
of
we're not so good in
COVID-19.
San
So we
Francisco.
are, in that instance, building back better, Rita.
Sure, but okay, help
But
me out
is that
here.
a permanent
Nicholas, I mean-
arrangement or is this a short-term thing? Is that
Yeah, that's
actually
right.
you're pledging that there will be no more homeless people on the street? There will be a bed for everybody who wants it?
Look, unfortunately, I cannot give you that roll gold guarantee, but what I can tell you is that
Right.
there has been a great reset in terms of homelessness in Melbourne so far, and we
But-
want to see that continue.
Well, that one step
Okay.
to eliminating
Yeah,
global
let's
let's drop
poverty.
the
Did you
what
notice
the
that?
drop the labels.
situation is.
And I've got no. I've
That's
got no
what Rita
problem
was
with
saying. Like,
Nicholas-
you're pie in the sky. They literally, part of the thing is to eliminate global poverty. And guys, like, we got 500 people off the streets. Right there, baby. We just took one giant chunk out of global poverty right there.
saying that is great if you can achieve that, and as a deputy mayor, you can do that in Melbourne. Fantastic. What I'm saying is, I don't want those type of decisions made in Davos. I don't want international agreements tying us down, tying you down there in Melbourne, or me here in Rockhampton, about what we can do in our own local communities. And look, if you want to call it Build Back Better, or Great Reset, whatever, but the reset needs to be that we need to give local people an opportunity to make their communities better, and not sign away our own independence and sovereignty to
So
some
good.
international body who are full of people who don't understand our own community.
So funny, because the guy in the middle, he obviously hasn't heard Klaus Schwab say, you know, we want a great reset. We want transhumanism. Like, seriously, it's so funny. It's like, you've been just, like, reading. These are their own words. Here we have...
Here's the deal. What's so interesting that guy mentioned the dark web, and so many people, they love to throw that out there when
like, it's a conspiracy. It's not on the dark web. It's on stinking YouTube.
Well, exactly. What I want to say is, like, it's not just YouTube. There are articles that are being written that have proof with videos from their own people. This is not dark web stuff. This is just
we did
out
our
in the
whole
open.
show last week.
But it used to be
Yeah.
on the dark web, and that's part of the resistance chicks. Be encouraged. It's all out in the open
This
now.
is what I'm excited about, because they did say, the World Economic Forum says 2030 you won't own anything and your life will be happier. Like, that's their own words.
Boris Johnson is going green. The British Prime Minister announced a nearly $16 billion plan to boost green industries and tackle climate change. By 2030, sales of new gas and diesel cars will be banned, and the government will back investment in electric vehicles and green energy. Johnson says the plan will create or support up to 250,000 jobs.
So, these great wind farms, with wind coming out of Bojo's mouth, will actually... Who knew?
drive your car for you.
So why didn't we think of that?
Yeah.
Why didn't we think of that?
Do you know how much coal it takes to actually, not fossil fuels, I mean, that it takes to
build
these
a
wind
windmill?
turbines? It's not a windmill. We're in favor of windmills. Wind turbines, we are not in favor of. I think Holland does really well with their windmills.
Yeah.
We can build back better. And I'm looking forward to getting started as soon as we can.
Build back better. What does Biden's slogan mean? Known for his plagiarism, he is not the only one to have used it.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change. Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs.
The third foundation is to build back better to create a stronger, more resilient Canada.
But after all we've been through, it isn't enough just to go back to normal. We've lost too much. We've mourned too many. We've been through too much frustration and hardship just to settle for the status quo ante, to think that life can go on as it was before the plague. And it will not, because history teaches us that events of this magnitude wars, famines, plagues, events that affect the vast bulk of humanity, as this virus has, they don't just come and go. They are more often than not the trigger for an acceleration of social and economic change, because we human beings will simply not content ourselves with a repair job. We see these moments as the time to learn and to improve on the world that went before. And that's why this government will build back better.
I got good news for you. Good news. He's right, but it's going to be God.
That's so good.
God is going to build back better, true. But not your global greeny weeny, wind turbine-y, solar panel-y,
or
major
FDR-y,
corporation.
a New Deal-y.
Right. So this is again from the Outsiders here. Prince Charles is now selling. And by the way, the Prince Charles can't be king because he will become a dictator. And you want to know why? The royal family is supposed to be apolitical. They're not supposed to come out and tell people how to live and how to do things and how to do things in politics. But Prince Charles has become a political powerhouse, using his position as first in line to the throne of England to control and manipulate this fascist agenda. And you guys, I don't know if you like him or not, but he has become a fascist. Like, what they call Trump of doing, he is doing. He is literally working with these people to do the 2030. He is behind the Boris Johnson and the Global Economic Forum. He is meeting with and working with Klaus Schwab on the transhumanism and all the digital currencies and the craziness. But it's weird because I know he has like these organic farms and he meets with Joe Salatin. But he is doing it in such a way that is not right. Okay, these people think that they know how to tell you how to farm, how you to control, and they can't allow people to do what they feel is best.
Out of the Germans.
Die gegenwärtige Pandemie und der Klimawandel haben eines gemeinsam. Sie kennen keine Grenzen und zeigen uns.
My mistake. That was, of course, the heir to the throne of Australia and Great Britain,
Why
Prince
does that
Charles,
freak me out?
now selling his eco-fascist fantasy of the Great Reset to the Germans themselves, or should I say, der große Neustart.
That was Prince Charles, for anybody that couldn't
Schwab and his cronies call it in their native tongue.
Speaking German.
This is the grand plan developed by the World Economic Forum that we chatted to James Dellingpole about, in cahoots with the United Nations, in league with the International Monetary Fund, and supported by all sorts of prestigious institutions, including, apparently, the Crown of England, who have yet to disown Prince Charles's ever-increasing and unhinged rantings. This is the Great Reset, der große Neustart, promised to begin next year to transform all Western economies, including ours, by transferring the authoritarian tools currently being used to eradicate the coronavirus.
I don't mean to be rude or anything, but if you're German, you don't get to talk about anything global.
Hang on. I want to read this comment from Barry. He says, Michelle, Charles can't become a dictator. The Magna Carta and Bill of Rights of 1689 prevent that. It would cause a civil war if he tries to seize power.
He already is.
I would agree with you, but my question is, you're talking about him coming out and saying, no more Parliament, I am in charge, we're going back to before William and
He's
Mary.
already gone. Here's the thing. When you put a barrier, water will find a way around.
Right.
So what Prince Charles has done is he's already become a dictator because he's just finding a way around. He's using. You all voted for Tories to get you out of Brexit. Not happening. Okay, to get you your Brexit deal. You see, Boris Johnson is already in on it with Charles doing his Green New Deal. No gas cars in 10 years. Really? No gas cars to be allowed to be built in the UK in less than 10 years. This is not feasible even. Okay? So, yeah, he's already become a dictator.
Lockdowns and forced business.
But I like your attitude.
He
can't.
But you're right. He can't. It's wrong.
And illegal.
And property rights to tackle the imaginary climate crisis.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again. So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play.
The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. It is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate and rebalance our world. Rebalancing investment, harnessing science and technology, and advancing the transition to net zero emissions, all elements of the Great Reset are fundamental to building the future we need.
They want a better future that they need. But did they ask me what future I needed?
You won't own anything and you'll be happy is one of their utopian communist slogans. Seriously. Not sure your subjects would agree with that one, Prince Charles. Prince Charles's decision to throw his lot in with these crazies and now sell this eco-corporate fascism in the German tongue is unfortunate timing, to say the least, because here's what the levers used to control the coronavirus are currently being pulled in Germany itself.
People fighting back. This is what I'm talking about, baby. People. You can't stop the people. There's more of us. There's more of us. Let's unite.
Yes, that's water cannons the other day being used this weekend, in fact, against anti-lockdown demonstrations in Berlin, against protesters who were simply demonstrating against attempts by the Reichstag, sorry, Freudian slip, I mean, of course, the Bundestag, to enshrine new and even more stringent and draconian lockdown legislation, such as enforcing mask wearing, banning the sale of alcohol, shutting down shops, and so on. And after having hosed down the protesters, the German police, Freudian slip, then went door-knocking, hunting down a man who dared to live stream the freedom protest.
Da. Die Polizei ist gerade da. Ja. Polizei! Ich will die Hände sehen! Auf den Boden, runter, beide! Runter auf den Boden! Geh runter!
This is the scariest thing ever!
Yesterday in Germany, that Prince Charles is what using all the levers available to us to enforce a political doctrine looks like. Totalitarianism. You, of all people, with your family history, Charles, shouldn't really be wandering around spruiking corporate quasi-fascism in the name of saving the planet. What a joke. But first...
I didn't watch that to the end, and now I'm a little bit creeped out.
That was really intense. Like, okay.
We're trying not to scare you. Sorry.
I don't know what he said, but I like if I was speaking in tongues, it'd be like,
that sounds like every German Nazi movie I've ever seen.
Oh, and that's correct.
Hammering on the doors of trying to get the Jews hiding in your basement.
Oh my
and he was live streaming the protest. So, we need a break.
Friends of ours and us, we do this thing called Thankful Lists every November. And every day we text our little group of one thing that we're thankful for, and then on day 2 there's 2 things and 3 things and 4 things. All right, so so for one of my 22 for today is going to be that I don't live in Germany, and the current Nazi Germany that's taking place right now. That's definitely going to be my number 1 thankful for today, and you should be too. That was intense.
Well, here's their Great Reset. I just want to remind you.
We have an
you have to watch it again.
opportunity
this is from Prince Charles.
to create entirely new sustainable industries, investing in nature as the true engine of our economy.
The current global crisis has disrupted every aspect of our lives, but it has also presented us with an extraordinary opportunity, a chance to reset and accelerate efforts to improve the state of our world.
Changing our current trajectory will require bold and imaginative action, together with determination and decisive leadership. In order to secure our future and to prosper, We need to evolve our economic model, putting people and planet at the heart of global value creation. If there is one critical lesson we have to learn from this crisis, we need to put nature at the heart of how we operate. We are on the verge of catalytic breakthroughs
That doesn't look like
that
nature
will
to me.
alter our view of what is possible and profitable within the framework of a sustainable future. We need nothing short of a paradigm shift, one that inspires action at revolutionary levels and pace. We simply cannot waste any more time. The only limit is our willingness to act.
You're creeping me out. No, that's where we're going to be, the empty streets.
And the time to act is
forever.
now.
No, you creepy man.
So what's so funny is that if you Google reset, that comes up with the word conspiracy theory. But this is their own deal, man. This is their own great reset. Like it's not a theory. This is what they're doing. This is what they're saying. I don't know what kind of backwards world. This is not a theory. It is a theory. It's their own theory. But
here's the deal. It can't be accomplished. One thing that should stand out to you.
I am so confused.
Is he said that we should put nature at the center,
not human beings or people.
Exactly, and it's a religion that puts nature as God.
But here's the thing. Prince Charles will always have his land. Prince Charles will always have his organic food. Prince Charles will always have his travel. His son will always have a giant house. They will always have giant houses and giant mansions and royal diadems and diamonds. And they believe because they deserve it, because they were born. They are, and I have to tell you this, I believe the Queen is a good person. But the Prince Charleses of this world, the global elites, they believe that they have a right to have the fancy suits and the fancy dinners and the big giant castles and mansions like Leonardo DiCaprio. And for Harry to go on the stage with all of his rich friends barefoot and say, we want to change the world. What he's saying is, we want to get rid of you people. That's what they're saying. You are a plague on the planet. We hate you and we want you gone.
Right.
And we want the world left to the Georgia Guidestones with only a handful of a million, 2 people who are our closest friends. And the rest of you need to lock down. The rest of you, as Gavin Newsom showed, no, you people are using too many resources. You're using too much gasoline. You're polluting the air. You're using too much stuff. You stay home.
Right.
They're not going to stay home.
Exactly.
They're going to keep getting together with their friends. They're going to keep traveling. In fact, recently, California lawmakers all took a big trip to Hawaii. They're going to keep doing this.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to give you a commercial break. I don't know if you can see this. Not all heroes wear capes.
I think he has a cigar in his mouth.
And wrest it from the jaws of the alligator. It takes several seconds until he's able
It's a
to
puppy.
put the down, shake the puppy
And an
from
alligator.
its grip. The puppy did suffer a puncture to its belly, but is doing just fine after a trip to the vet. Man leaps into the water to grab a hold of his King Charles Spaniel and wrest it from the jaws of the alligator. It takes
Humanity
until he's able to put
will
the
survive.
down, shake the puppy from its grip.
So, I think that this guy is a hero. Okay? Is it a crocodile or an alligator?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Whatever this reptile is. It's kind of a small one. And it had something in its mouth. I think that a lot of people would go in after that, their dog. If it wasn't this is me not trying to poop. I'm just literally trying to, he's a hero. Amazing man. Amazing man. I just am putting myself, like, I would probably do that.
Yeah.
Like, I would do that. I wouldn't do it. I'd probably go and get something like a gun if it was a bigger crocodile.
So, on the other side, when I talk about the
whatever.
American spirit, in America we have some lockdowns. This is 10 o'clock after curfew in California.
Come on now. Yes. Why didn't you show this to me last night?
You saw it this morning.
Thank you, Jesus. See? Ain't nobody gonna get me down.
They got one just hanging out of their car.
It's like, if you guys, I mean, if they want to achieve something, all you have to do is put out recommendations. Honestly, people will follow recommendations. When you start making it a rule, and then you start trying to enforce that rule like it's law when you haven't made it into a law, and it's draconian, everybody's gonna buck it. Like, no, we ain't doing that, Jack.
So, this is, dear farmers and fishermen, thank you for your support for democracy. In this time, it was you who helped us throw off the dictatorship at the gate, and now you are here again. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. The people are on your side here. I'm trying to decide if this is where Finland, or if it's Sweden. I don't know, but they're farmers. Oh, wait, that's the Finnish flag. Isn't that or is that Norway or the Finnish flag, guys?
I don't.
Swiss flag? Is that the Swiss flag?
It's Norway.
Is that the Swiss flag, guys? With the, sorry, my flags are. I think it's Switzerland.
We'll wait for somebody in the chat to tell us what you don't know. Thanks. And I don't know either, but I didn't bring it up. Like, here's this awesome thing I don't know anything about, but it's farmers and it's cool. And they're the
fighting back.
And they're fighting back. Yeah.
Swedish politicians. Denmark. Okay.
Thank you, Robin.
Swedish politicians speak of Poland and Hungary leaving the EU after budget veto. 2 Swedish members of the European Parliament have slammed Hungary and Poland, speaking openly about conservative countries leaving the European Union after vetoing the budget's blocked. So we'll see where that goes. They're pretty mad. We talked about that. The UK has a deal there. Swedish Islamic political party to challenge Social Democrats in a no-go zone.
Wow.
So you've got the Islamic Nines Party are looking to cause an upset in upcoming municipal elections in the notorious Stockholm suburb of Rinkeby. After we used to do the Swedish, all the Swedish in the Rinkebys. So the Nines Party leader Mikael Yüksel announced that Mohammed Hag Farah, a popular member of the no-go zone's Somali community, would be running as a local candidate in the area for the party in the upcoming local elections in 2022. Described by the local press as Rinkeby's mayor and the father of the town by local media, Mohammed Hagi Farah has been involved in the Somali community in Rinkeby for years and was praised last December when he went into retirement. Johan Westerholm, the author of the book on Islamism in Sweden, told the news website,
wouldn't that just be Johan?
Johan, did I say Johan?
You said Johan.
No, Johan.
Are you Swedish or not?
I don't know.
Johan.
That the candidacy could pay off for the Islamic Party and could threaten the Social Democrats. Mikael Yüksel has been smart. He has sat down and calculated on which cities you have a chance to get in, and so he has invested there. Westerholm noted the influence of local mosques and clans on voting in areas like Rinkeby that have high migration background populations, and stated that the Social Democrats would not be able to respond to such a party. They call themselves a suburban party. It's the classic Islamist rubber language. The Nines Party emerged in January this year, saying that they wanted Muslims in Sweden to be recognized as a special minority in the same way the country recognizes Sami people and Jewish people. The party chairman, Mikael Yüksel, was formerly a member of the Center Party, but was kicked out after it emerged he had links to the Turkish ultranationalist Grey Wolves, a group that was recently banned in France after clashing with police and vandalizing an Armenian genocide memorial. The Grey Wolves participated in a protest in the southern Swedish city of Malmö earlier this month following the French ban. So that looks like great news there for Sweden.
Not really.
Scotland shuts its borders with the rest of the UK in the latest COVID lockdown push. Can't go anywhere, can't come in. This is their bid for freedom. The Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon shut down travel from other countries in the United Kingdom on Friday, as much of the country is placed under draconian lockdown measures to supposedly stem the spread of the Chinese virus. They're trying to just go look to see if they got any descendants of Robert the Bruce. We watched the new movie Robert the Bruce. It was slow going. I was kind of hoping he freed Scotland, and it just had those words at the end. It was kind of slow going, but still beautiful, I guess. Filmography.
Robert the Bruce.
From 6 p.m. on Friday, the Scottish government, roughly equivalent to the U.S. state government, banned Scots from travelling to England, Wales and Northern Ireland. People from the rest of the UK are also banned from entering Scotland, with the government imposing £60 fines for those found to have crossed the border illegally. On Thursday, the Scottish Parliament voted by a margin of 99 to 23 to back the restrictions under the lockdown. All non-essential businesses, pubs, restaurants, shops, cafes, swimming pools, gyms, and tourist locations will be shuttered until December 11th. Aside from border crossing restrictions, people in the 11 areas where the government has imposed Tier 4 restrictions will all also be banned from traveling to other parts of the country. Those who need to travel for work, as well as for other exemptions, are permitted to travel inside the country. These travel restrictions, nobody likes them. I don't like them, right? But they are vital to help us minimize these risks. They are vital to helping us avoid having the whole community at the same level of restrictions. Oh, Scotland be free!
Stuart the Brit and Brit Baza say nobody wants to go to Scotland anyway.
Well, it's pretty. Merkel's Germany tells Trump not to bring troops home from Afghanistan. And so I say,
bring them home.
Bring them home.
No one wants to listen to you anyway.
So there was a man caught with a sawn-off shotgun and a machete. He plotted to kill some police. Police have arrested an 18-year-old near a high school in the commune of Lundeville on suspicion of plotting a murder to murder police.
What country are we in?
But what sometimes if you just let me get to the article, I'll figure it out. Hang on. The arrest came after a man called police on November 12th and claimed to have been attacked near the Bounet, I'm pretty sure it's France, Bouet de Mondeville High School at around 8:50 a.m. Where officers arrived, they found a man at the scene with the tip of a firearm protruding from his bag.
French teachers, yes.
Yeah. According to a report from Act 2, in pursuit of the arrest, police realized that the armed suspect was also the alleged assault victim and had made the call to emergency services to lure officers into the area to ambush them.
Wow.
Police arrested the suspect, who was armed with a machete, a knife, and a sawn-off shotgun with one cartridge. So France is looking really great. But interestingly, Macron has actually given Muslims 2 weeks to agree to Republican values charter. I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't trust anything from Macron. But President Emmanuel Macron has given the French Council of the Muslim Faith, the CFCM, 2 weeks to agree to a Republican values charter and vow to end all practices of political Islam. The French leader, alongside Interior Minister Gerard Darmanin, met with 8 of the 9 representatives of the CFCM and demanded the group draft and ratify a charter of Republican values as soon as possible. There are those who will sign and those who will not sign. We'll learn from it. Either you are with the Republic or you are not with the Republic, Macron said. According to the moron.
You had that right the first time.
Thank you. According to the newspaper, Macron gave the group 2 main conditions: to end all practices of political Islam and to commit to putting an end to any foreign interference.
But what's the point, though? Like, I get the sentiment behind it, but they're allowed to practice taqiyya, which means they can just lie.
I know. He's pushing for the creation of a French National Council of Imams and called on the CFCM to come up with their own guidelines for training of Muslim religious leaders using the model of the orders of lawyers and physicians as a guide. The project was already in the works and expected to be rolled out by the end of the first quarter of 2021. But due to the recent terrorist attacks, Macron has ordered the policy expedited. So looks like rector of a Paris mosque said, the president is asking for an unambiguous commitment to fight Islamism. If he fights it without any electoral ulterior motives, I will fully adhere to it. Since the murder and beheading of the teacher, Samuel Paty, last month and the subsequent Nice church terror attack, Macron has vowed to crack down on Islamist ideology. Well, I'm just going to tell you, you cannot do that really without having Jesus, so good luck with that.
Mofa on Twitter, or excuse me, on YouTube says, as Erdogan of Turkey said, there is no political or religious Islam, there is only Islam.
You know, it's hard to tell because nobody tells the truth. Now, in Sweden, we're going to spend over $1 billion to fix the no-go zones. So, the Sweden city of the Gothenburg is looking to spend over $1 billion U.S. dollars in an effort to remove the city's 6 no-go zones from a police list of vulnerable neighborhoods. The police can't go there, and so instead of sending in the Vikings, we send in the monies. The local government has a pledge to spend 11 billion kroner, which is 1.2 billion U.S. dollars, on investment in the 6 areas of the city that have been deemed particularly vulnerable areas. Just vulnerable. You just get to a couple of Vikings at the front door. I think you won't be vulnerable anymore. In order to have them removed from the official police listing in the next 5 years. The money is set to be invested into security, new construction projects, removal of graffiti, and improved waste management. T.J. Johansson, CEO of the company Tremetinen, who helped businesses hire staff in the variety of industries, said the ambitious goal of moving the areas from particularly vulnerable to vulnerable on the list is possible. So, particularly vulnerable to the vulnerable. That's where we want to move them with $1.2 billion.
No, thank you.
Not safe. Not happy, come visit, just vulnerable from particularly vulnerable.
That's not really a move, okay, on the scale there. You're just kind of, you're just kind of like wavering it. Like, oh, look, we just spent $1.6 million to move it that much. Like, that much.
Johansson noted that the area of Garston has been a change largely due to the involvement in the area of a municipal housing company that took about 22 years. 22 years. Yeah, there we go. The majority of the cash, 7.5 billion kroner, will go toward construction projects in the areas of Bixesport Garden and the Tiernaderden and the Burden and the Liverderden.
Our grandpa, hang on, for new viewers that are enamored by the hats, I'm watching the chat.
A viewer sent us these.
Wasn't it Dale?
I think so.
Dale, didn't you send these hats? Dale has sent several of the hats. We have several here. We need more. We don't have a French hat.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have anything like a beret or something, but we are Swedish. Okay, so
we are the Swedens.
Leah,
our last name is the Svenssons.
Right there was quoting directly from our grandfather, who used to go around the house saying Swedish words because he came over when he was 12.
So that he would, we were like, you're not
speaking Swedish.
He would have That's pretty much it. I don't know a lick of Swedish.
Right.
None. Somebody sent us a thing on learning Swedish, and I haven't used it yet. Sorry. All right. Maybe I could pronounce the Bixesport Garden, and the Tiernaderden, and the Borgestjön, and the Hammarkullen, and the Lovegard. Okay, the rest of the monies that will go towards the city government refers to as a super management, including the security on the site to 7 days a week. A zero tolerance policy on the crime, and no illegal renting or subletting in the areas, and a swift cleanup of the vandalism and graffiti. Into September, it emerged that the police in the city were growing increasingly concerned about growing ethnic violence between the gangs. You've got these Vikings over here with these Vikings. No, just they're not the Vikings. They're not really Swedish.
It's kind of laughable, actually.
So the ethnic violence is a nicer way to put it, as people who aren't Swedish. Between the gangs involved, before the move of the migrants, Sweden actually had a very low violence rate.
Oh my gosh, it was like the safest nation to move to outside of Switzerland.
Yeah. These are regular, large, violent clashes in center Gothenburg between young Afghans and especially young Assyrians, but also Somalis, where they fight for good drug sales. There have been several stabbings in connection with these brawls, and police have on various occasions found street fighting weapons. Just weeks before, gangs set up roadblocks in certain areas of the city and demanded the local residents obey a curfew instituted by the gangs themselves in what was described by the Gothenburg police chief Eric Nord as a demonstration of the powers.
Wow.
So,
there you go.
Remember when Trump's like, what's happening in Sweden? Like, nothing's happening in Sweden. Nothing, none of your beeswax. We doing Sweden, doing fine over here. You're spending $1.2 billion because you're trying to move 6 cities from particularly vulnerable to vulnerable. Something's going on in Sweden.
Not from particularly vulnerable to safe.
Yeah, not too safe.
We're just kind of notching. It's kind of like if you have a raging fire back to
Right.
just a fire.
Yeah. So, Brit makes international headlines by saving someone in China who was drowning. British diplomat 61 rescues a drowning student from a river as locals look on. A 61-year-old British diplomat has become something of a hero in China after diving into a river to save a drowning student while local Chinese looked on. The woman has
Isn't it China where they don't know how to swim?
I don't know. Left flailing in the water after some time before her rescue by Stephen Ellison, the British consul general in Chongqing or Chongqing, a vast metropolis of over 30 million people in China's southwest. Look, it's this foreigner who jumped into the river, bystanders can be heard saying in the video footage of the rescue. So many young people were around and they didn't. Ellison had wasted no time in going to help the woman, leaping into the water fully clothed as he watched the mobile phone still on him, as his watch and mobile phone were still on him. The British mission extended his thanks to the people who helped him after he intervened, throwing in a life buoy after him and assisting him once he was back on dry land. When Ellison went ashore, people took good care of him. The mission said in a statement posted on Weibo, they brought him hot coffee to warm him up and gave him clothes to change into, which he really appreciates.
All right, let's watch this.
So this is a moment of good...
And somebody caught it on film? Did it go any bigger? There you go. What happened to her though? Like she wasn't even like trying. Like did she pass out or something? So he was an ambassador? Is that what you said?
The British consul, I think. That's what they said.
She was unconscious. Okay. Thank you, Barry. It's not easy to get a body out of water like that. I mean, bodies are heavy. And they're probably trying to be careful.
Seizure or something like that. Something like that. So there's your good international news for the day.
Leonard said that when they saw it, it seemed staged. Who would happen to have a life preserver there? Usually when you're by bodies of water where a lot of people gather, you have life preservers. It's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I that doesn't look, it didn't look staged to me at all. What a hero. Well done on you, old chap.
So the Vatican's financial scandals deepen.
Oh, you mean when they're like not busy investing in like Hollywood
has uncovered cash
movies
and gold coins in an official's home. The Vatican's ongoing financial scandals show no sign of letting up as police have uncovered hundreds of thousands of euros in cash along with precious gold coins and medallions hidden in 2 homes of a suspended Vatican official. According to a report by Italian investigative journalist Emilio Fittipaldi, the stash of a former Vatican administrator, Fabrizio Tirabassi, included several pounds of gold and silver coins as well as 600,000 euros in cash, much of which was stuffed into an old shoebox.
Come on, everybody hides it in the shoebox.
The total worth of the prize seized by the Italian financial police was over €2 million. Fittipaldi wrote, and was divided between the house of the former Vatican official and a storage space owned by his 90-year-old father in the town of Solano in the central Italy's Abruzzo region. Tirabasi's father used to run a small coin and stamp shop near the Vatican, which could help explain the immense find of valuable coins. Fabrizio Tirabasi is an accountant who worked under disgraced Cardinal Angelo Becciu at the Vatican's Secretary of State until he was suspended last year together with 4 other employees. Mr. Tirabasi has been tied to the Vatican's notorious purchase of millions of dollars worth of real estate in London's upscale Chelsea neighborhood. Tirabasi allegedly issued the Vatican and was paid by some €15 million of false invoices over time. And among his accounts is one in the Vatican Bank itself containing €1 million. Remember when the Vatican invests $1.1 million in the steamy Elton John biopic? The Vatican is investigating Tirabasi along with Italian businessman Raphael Mincine, with Gianna Luigi Torzi, and the former banker from Credit Suisse, another place. Okay. Last December, the Italian daily
you guys come here just for the pronunciation of the names.
Revealed that, and actually, I did learn a good deal of Italian. We were supposed to go to Italy, so I do know a little bit of...
Define a good deal.
Okay, I learned enough on how to pronounce the letters.
But
I spent a whole summer learning Italian every day for hours. So I don't know how good deal of it is, and I don't know how much I retain it. The Vatican, it's the only other language I remember besides Spanish, and I actually remember more Italian than Spanish, revealed that the Vatican had invested more than $1 million to finance Rocket Man film. The Vatican Secretary of State had also invested in Lapo Elkan's eyewear and lifestyle products company. The Holy See prosecutors looked into a series of Vatican investments made through the Malta-based Centurion Global Fund that financed projects including real estate, mineral water, websites, and film. So
now, I do have a question because we do know that the Vatican is kind of like its own little city, right? And they have their own police. So that begs the question, if this person lives like in Italy but not within the Vatican, can they prosecute the person? Can they, what kind of laws do they have? What kind of
that's a good question.
Recourse can the police there? Do they have a judicial system? I mean,
so the Pope's. I wanted to make one line of demarcation here before we go on to Dominion here. Pope Francis has urged seminarians in Rome to offer the world a solution to the great evil that afflicts it, an evil laid bare by the coronavirus. Protect the world from the great evil that afflicts it, the pontiff told students at the Jesuit-run Pio Latino Seminary on Friday. The pandemic has put us before the great evil that afflicts our society, laid it bare, and we can really feel it. Without ever identifying what this great evil is by name, the Pope seemed to hint that it represents divisions and a lack of universal brotherhood. Globalization overcame borders, but not minds and hearts. The virus spreads relentlessly, but we are not able to give a unified response. The world continues to close the door, rejecting dialogue and rejecting collaboration, refuses to open up sincerely to the common commitment for a good that reaches everyone without distinction. This is the spirit of the world, so it moves, so it works. So this is very interesting because we have our Archbishop Vigano, who says, yes, the great evil has been laid bare, and it is globalism. And here you have Pope Francis, some are calling the Black Pope, saying the great evil is rejecting globalism.
Yeah.
So this is literally the spiritual battle at play. And I would much rather have, at the March for Trump last Saturday, Marshall, what's his name? Something Marshall. He read a statement from Archbishop Vigano, who is he's just awesome. If you haven't read his statements, you need to read them. And he's been talking about the Great Reset. He's been talking about globalization. He's talking about the inner workings of the Vatican and the Catholic Church. And there is a fight of good and evil. And the Pope is coming out, and he's on the side of Boris Johnson and Prince Charles and Klaus Schwab and Joe Biden. These people have put themselves on a side. Mm-hmm. The rest of the world is on the other side. Right. It's like, so there is no Republican Democrat right now.
Yeah.
There's you either are a great reset person,
right,
or you're a humanity person,
right?
Okay, you're a freedom-minded person, and like I said, like Alex Jones says, if you're getting this, you are part of the resistance. If you're listening to me, this is Radio America being sent out to the communist bloc. Okay, we are going to defeat this evil. We are going to overcome this evil because we know what it is. They're telling us who they are. They're raising their hand when you see the words build back better, globalization, great reset. There's your enemy. They're the enemy of humanity, and they're enemy of God and God's plan for humanity. But we do need what we're talking. I've heard people, moms calling it a great reformation. I've heard people call it a revival. I've called, people have seen that there is something going to happen in 2021.
Yeah.
There's going to be a change. But the evil that has reared its ugly head is going to lose all its power because it has expended everything. It's at the end of its rope.
Okay, so technically I had to do a little Googling because of everything that everybody said. The Vatican is its own country. Now, I called it its own city. Online it says city, state, whatever. It's you could, for all intents and purposes, it's its own
so Italy is not doing an investigation.
Country.
The Vatican's doing its own investigation into itself.
So Robin, I think, had said that's the reason why the Pope can't currently leave the Vatican because he would be prosecuted. Carrie says that Pope is talking about fighting evil. Okay, I am Catholic, but that is not my Pope. And a lot of Catholics feel the exact same way that you guys do. Marshall Taylor. Thank you, Robin.
Right. So I thought I had the video, but I don't. So we're going to go on to Dominion. Because guess what? We're going to Canada.
Lizette says, I'm sure if there's property connected to the Vatican, then the Vatican can have a case against the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. There's a lot going on. Rebel News is doing a lot of really good things that I would have loved to show. They're doing a whole expose on Canada, how
Manitoba's government needs a reality check on their COVID.
On the COVID restrictions in Canada are insane. And the fines that they have given out to businesses, I want to show you guys in a second.
Law enforcement. And I think we're just the people to give it to them. But I need your help to do it. In intensive care due to COVID-19, and just 190 people have died because of COVID-19 since the beginning of the pandemic. However, the province was recently plunged into full lockdown, and the premier, like Patrick Brown before him, has hired private security, COVID mercenaries really, to enforce a lockdown on an unwilling public. Look at this. Private security officers will crack down on rule breakers after shoppers crowded into big box stores where many bought, if you can imagine, non-essential goods during the first weekend of the province's latest lockdown. The province has hired security firm G4S Canada to boost its enforcement of COVID-19 regulations, and their personnel should be handing out tickets.
Not Canadian police or their little Mounties or whatever, but they've hired a security firm to hand out tickets in the name of the government? Yeah. How is that legal?
This weekend, Premier
people?
Brian Pallister said Tuesday all of Manitoba was put into code red restrictions last Thursday, forcing most non-essential businesses and services to close. Now look at this tweet from the Premier, that alleged conservative named Brian Pallister. He tweets, "We're all part of Team Manitoba. If you see something, say something, voice your concerns, and share information by calling our COVID-19 Manitoba tip line. Nothing says we're all a big fat team, and we're all in this together, like calling the cops on your neighbors for having a birthday party." And Pallister, he really means it. Look what he's doing to the people of Manitoba. A specific fine of $298 is being put in place for not wearing a mask in indoor public places, which is required under the current public health orders. Enforcement officials can issue this fine. All other fines for individuals related to public health orders remain at $1,296, while fines for businesses are $5,000. Now, I took this next information directly from the Government of Manitoba COVID-19 website. The Manitoba government advises that ongoing enforcement efforts by more than 3,300 personnel across various agencies that are empowered to enforce public health orders to protect Manitobans continue. This includes RCMP, law enforcement. This is the list of victims of government heavy-handedness. It's probably going to make my video today a little long, but I want to list them all in case you're government heavy-handedness.
Since Enforcement A began in April, total 307 warnings and 200 tickets have been issued. Some examples of tickets began in November A. Included $5,000 ticket to the Bar Italia in Winnipeg for operating with 7 patrons on the outdoor patio. Of 7, 5 were in possession of liquor.
I think she was getting ready to read all that.
Well, I'm going to read it.
Okay.
The $5,000 ticket in the Pembina Hotel for failure to ensure patrons vacate by 11 p.m. A $5,000 ticket. $5,000 ticket to Pony Corral Restaurant and Bar in Winnipeg for failure to ensure patrons vacate by 11. And it goes on, and it goes on.
Probably going to make my video today a short. Since enforcement efforts began in April, a total of 307 warnings and 200 tickets p.m. A $5,000 between patrons, and because staff were not instructing clients to maintain 2-meter distancing. A $5,000 ticket to McDonald's in Nipawa for failure to take measures to ensure physical distancing between patrons. Some patrons were observed less than 2 meters apart. This is unbelievable. A $5,000 ticket to the Gillam Motor Inn for not ensuring contact information was obtained from patrons dining or drinking in the premises. A $5,000 ticket to the Riverton Petro-Canada for failing to remind individuals to wear masks. And a $5,000 ticket to the JT Diner in Bloom North for failing to remind individuals to wear masks. And if you are on this list, let me tell you, reach out to us here at Rebel News. Go to fightthefines.com. Tell us your story. We are amassing a team of lawyers that we are going to deploy to help you at no cost to you. We're not going to pay your fine, but we will help you fight the fine every step of the way, and we will work with you to make Manitoba freer. Now let's keep going on this government website. In addition, a total of 54 warnings and 32 tickets were issued last week, November 9th to 15th. Over the weekend, one individual was ticketed in Steinbach for gathering at a demonstration and received a $1,296 fine. However, this incident remains under investigation and additional charges are expected. Earlier this month, the province announced enhanced enforcement efforts, including increased fines for breaching or failing to comply with public health or emergency orders. The new fines, as these maniacs keep mentioning, are $1,296 for individuals up. Manitobans can report compliance and bragginess of a government crackdown on small businesses and normal people already just trying to keep their heads above water these days. I mean, can you say tone deaf? But on the other hand, I appreciate the transparency of it all, and I like how the Pallister government is showing everybody who they really are right now. They're a bunch of thugs. They claim to be conservative, but if the NDP were still in power in Manitoba, would they be doing anything different than that?
No. No, they would not.
I like what Lil Pop here says in the chat. Nah, they're not trying to destroy the economy. It's been destroyed a long time ago. They're trying to change the economy, and that's just it. But can you imagine how these meetings go when they talk about this stuff? They know why they're implementing these lockdowns, okay? It is for the great global reset. But it's almost like a sell. Like, but guess what? we do have people that won't comply. So we can find them and we will make so much money. Like as a bonus,
yeah, exactly.
to all of it.
Exactly.
Just a bonus.
I have been a little fit to be tied today, and I was a little. I've been upset because people. I feel like lying and smearing Sidney Powell, talking about the Dominion software being able to switch the votes from Biden to Trump, or from Trump to Biden. I've seen so much evidence of computer analysts who have been able to show how this was done and when it was done. We talked about it on our show. I am not a computer analyst, but what they've said made a lot of sense to me. I haven't been able to see people disprove the different things that they've said.
And we're talking about the witnesses, these affidavits that have been made available to us. You can go online and read them easily.
But
witness testimony.
Sidney Powell has been put under the ringer by a lot of people. A lot of Republicans have stepped out and been, let's just certify the results, just to get this done. We haven't even looked into this stuff. It makes my stomach turn because I believe Sidney Powell, and I believe that she has the goods, and I believe that she has the information. Now, she had the goods on General Flynn not being some Russian asset or not doing anything, and the fact that he was set up, and she has been a tenacious lawyer on our country's behalf. She was a federal prosecutor. She's not a dim-witted nimskull, and nothing about her life has ever shown that she is anything less than smart and capable. Now, she is building a case, and she says when she drops it, she will drop it. She'll release the Kraken. It's biblical. But what people do with testimony is up to us and how we see it. You can frame anything. The Nazis framed themselves as good people. The Nazis framed putting people into a concentration camp or burning them alive as good. Whether the American people see Sidney Powell's evidence, whether the judges see it, the way it is presented, that's for us to pray that the truth is out and that people see it. I don't see how they can't. But
they're acting like she's coming to court and saying the glove just didn't fit.
Exactly. So when I saw this video from Rebel News in Canada, everything fit in a box for me, and maybe it doesn't fit in a box for other people, but it probably does for you if you're watching me. Because these people, for 4 years, put us through this crazy Russian hoax that said that Donald Trump was a Russian agent. They impeached the president over a phone call that we know that Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden were making money, and they tell us making money in the Ukraine. And they're telling us that there was nothing untoward. The mainstream media, and even people on the right and the left, there's nothing untoward with Hunter Biden in the Ukraine. There's nothing untoward in that laptop. 10% for the big guy. They're telling us not to believe our lying eyes.
Right.
If these people are willing to lie and cheat and deceive and set up a sitting president with a coup, rigging an election is small potatoes. And so if you say to yourself, why didn't they put forward The Rock or Oprah Winfrey or some candidate that actually it would be feasible to believe beat Donald Trump by a landslide?
Exactly.
Okay? It might be easy for me to believe that The Rock beat Donald Trump. That would be feasible to me. It is not feasible that Joe go beat Donald Trump. Even with all the hatred against Donald Trump, it is not feasible for me to believe that Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton.
Right.
It is not feasible for me to believe that the House flipped. Donald Trump himself got 10 million more votes than he did in 2016, and that he didn't come out on top. But it is feasible to me when you watch, and it's a 30-minute, 3 10-minute segments that Donald Trump has tweeted out from One American News, showing how Dominion can be hacked and how it would have been hacked, and not necessarily that it's hooked up to the computers and hacked per se,
Even though they were hooked up to the internet and they were not supposed to be.
Some were. But the fact that any person using that machine can drag and drop votes in whatever folder and can erase votes and put them in the trash can and can, like, if a vote gets, and that the machines have the ability to even, like, spoil a ballot. And then the spoiled ballots go into another folder, and then you could drag and drop and put those in the trash. They're saying it was user error in Michigan. That, to me, says they did that on purpose, that they flipped it on purpose, and the user did it on purpose. These Dominion people, they are Serbian, Canadian, Venezuelan. Are any of them American at all? The two CEOs are Canadian. Okay? So let's go to Canada here.
Hi there, we're looking at office space for 215 Spadina. We're wondering if this is the right number.
I'm actually going to put you through to my partner, Maya Olick.
Okay. Before we do that, we're looking at a few spaces, but we're just hoping for something a little bit more like sustainability oriented. And we saw the green wall in the lobby, and we just sort of see that there's other businesses there that are sustainability oriented, and we're wondering if there's sort of like a community. We're more of a left-leaning organization. We want to make sure that our peers and community members also reflect sort of our values. So we just want to make sure that this is sort of the right fit.
Yeah, certainly would be. You can see that by the tenants,
Certainly would be. Now, we're talking about the building that Dominion is housed in, that is also housed with the Tides Foundation, which is funded by George Soros' Open Society Foundation.
Today we broke some pretty stunning news standing outside of this very building. If you recognize it, it is the headquarters of Dominion Voting in Toronto, Canada. Why they're headquartered here? Well, that's a great question to ask. The story we broke yesterday is that they were sharing an office floor, not just an office building, but an office floor with George Soros' Tides Foundation here in Canada. We were lucky enough to catch the evidence before it was able to be deleted. We even checked on that box right there to prove that, yes, Tides Canada was here, and so was Dominion Voting, sharing an office floor. Now, unfortunately, that was after they removed the physical signage from inside. Yeah, Dominion Voting and Tides Canada, they asked the landlords here to remove any physical mention of their name. They missed that call box, but
the Dominion software that 28 states in the United States use has this tiny little office building in Canada, and they have removed their placard
within the last 2 weeks.
Remove the signs. You can see it here. We got it all recorded. Could you tell us one thing though? We know that Dominion Voting is Unit 360, and right next to them at 370 is Tides. And on this board, it's been removed, and we're wondering why that was removed. What
that
sort
was
of
removed at the request of the tenants. So
that was removed at the request of the tenants.
Recording.
Now, why would they do that? What were they trying to hide? Well, that's exactly what we wanted to ask. We left them voicemails, we left them emails, and actually the only one that bothered to get back to us was Tides. And they got back to us saying that they actually didn't know who Dominion Voting was until, well, this. I find that a little hard to believe. They've been in the news so much, and sharing an office floor, it's hard to not know who your neighbors are, who's working right next to you. Now, many Americans got back to me rightfully worried. Well, what does the Wi-Fi look like here? What does the office sharing look like here? Do they share security personnel? Do they share filing cabinets? We don't know because they won't answer us. Dominion Voting isn't being clear about this at all. They've put a lineup of things on their website refuting things that have been reported even by the mainstream media, even by Fox News in the United States, saying, no, that's all fake news. But when we got here to uncover how close they are to both George Soros and other left-wing organizations, it was nothing but hush-hush from them. Now, we came here today not just to talk about George Soros and his connections to the people and businesses inside of this building, but to talk about everyone else, and something that a girl told me here in the lobby just yesterday. Listen to this.
Famous green wall.
Famous green wall.
Huh.
So it attracts a lot of people to this building.
It attracts a lot of people to this building.
Most of these companies are all about sustainability. So
most of the
matches.
Sorry, didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Most of these companies are about sustainability.
Gotcha. Well, that got me thinking. Maybe I should look into the other businesses, not just the obvious Tides Foundation, this nefarious organization that has its hands in all sorts of intersectional gender eco-politics. What about the other people in this building? Are they leftists as well? Are they extreme radicals like the Tides Foundation? Well, I looked into it. It turns out the people, organization, and businesses and charities in this building have a habit of sharing. Personnel, mainly. The new Tides CEO actually happened to be the president of AWID. That's another organization that is in this building. Isn't that strange that they just sort of leapfrog in between each other, almost like they all have a shared goal, a shared purpose, and a shared ideology? Well, it gets even worse than that. It's not just the personnel that all of these businesses in this leftist incubator share, they also share an ideology. Now, let's talk about Sustainalytics. They are a left-wing corporate watchdog. Springtide Resources, they're a woke anti-violence agency. AWID, they're gender activists. Artez Interactive, well, that's an NGO fundraiser. Teach for Canada, they're Indigenous activist teachers. AV Communications, well, they're a minority-focused ad agency. Then you have Tides Canada, an organization whose parent company is Tides in the United States. In San Francisco, they're outright communists. All of those people you have in this incubator building right behind me with a nice little eco wall. And then you have Dominion Voting, the company that has an ungodly amount of control over who sits in the Oval Office. Do they sound like an impartial business to you? Does this maybe explain why we are seeing so much irregularity in the vote in the United States? I think it does shed some light on it. I think it sheds some perspective on the modus operandi of Dominion Voting. They need to answer some questions here, because we've exposed something very nefarious indeed. Not just their close ties to George Soros, someone who gives millions upon millions of dollars to the Tides Foundation, someone who spends as much of his money and capital as possible on making sure that leftist politicians are elected across the world. What are they doing in an incubator with the rest of these leftist organizations, and why didn't they get office space literally anywhere else on planet Earth? Why right here? Was their office space subsidized by George Soros? Well, it's a question worth asking, isn't it? We're just wondering if what sort of the ideology is of the businesses who work in there.
I'm running late for a meeting and I don't want to talk.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry?
I'm sorry, I'm running late for a meeting and I don't want to.
Oh, it's okay. We'll just walk. Do you work for Dominion Voting at all? Do you work for Dominion Voting?
I didn't consent to this video.
Do you work for Dominion Voting? If not, we'll leave you alone.
Well, no, but I just don't know why you're filming me and you're asking me questions if I didn't consent to that.
No, it's not a consent thing here on a public sidewalk. But if you do work for Dominion Voting, we are certainly interested to talk to you. Why do you think Dominion Voting chose a leftist incubator to set up office, to set up shop? There is not only the Tides Foundation funded by George Soros, there's a ton of other green, pro, LGBT leftist activists in that building. Why would... Yesterday there was a few of them walking around with masks on, so it was pretty easy to ID them because they had company swag on, but I guess they've gotten a little bit smarter as of, well, today. Unfortunately for them, we're going to stick to this, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. Why is Dominion Voting sharing so much space with so many leftists? Why didn't they pick literally anywhere on planet Earth to set up shop? Why did they pick where George Soros' operations are hiding out? Why did they pick where eco-green, pro-LGBT, pro-immigration, all of these leftist sort of soft ideology points? They choose this building. That's really what I want to determine.
That's what I want to determine. Now, I want you guys...
I want to comment on that video because Leah told me about it yesterday, but I had not watched it. And here's the thing. When I'm watching that video, I'm kind of like, because I'm on the in the know, I guess I should say, I'm going, well, but of course they would be with the lefties because of course they would be. Of course our voting systems are controlled by the left. Like that comes as no surprise to me. And so I have to step back from what I already know. And you guys maybe watching this, raise your hand if you kind of felt that way, like watching it along with me, like, but of course they would be with the lefties. That's not okay. because we have to have, if you're going to use voting software, they need to at least put on the front of being a bipartisan. Like, we're just here. We don't have any political agenda. We don't have any global agenda. We're just a software tech company, right? We just engineer these machines and so on and so forth. That is, we just want to make money, right? Yeah. It's just about money. There's no politics involved. As soon as the people that make our voting machines and software take a hard line political stance, then we can't use your stuff.
Right. So I want to play just a little bit here from Chanel Ryan, who from One American News. Now, when you're done with my show, go to Donald Trump, watch this 3-part series, and you'll understand where Sidney Powell is coming from. What happened?
In this edition of One American News Investigates, we look at Dominion voting systems and its role in the 2020 presidential elections. Glitches, errors, money trails to powerful Democrats. Dominion is just one of 3 major companies providing voting systems to America. But Dominion captured headlines when it was discovered it had glitched 6,000 votes, giving Biden a fraudulent win. This was not an isolated event. Michigan affirmed its Republican loyalties by voting Trump 62%, beating Clinton by 4,000 votes. Fast forward 4 years, and Antrim County was shocked to find itself voting Joe Biden over Trump by 3,000 votes, a complete flip from the last presidential election. Something was very wrong. When the county set to work with a manual recount, they discovered a ghastly error. 6,000 Trump votes were accidentally tallied for Biden. RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel held a press conference noting a litany of irregularities in Michigan. But when it came to Antrim County, the irregularity was potentially much bigger in scale.
When they inquired with the clerk, they were told it was a software issue and it was corrected. But now we know that 47 counties use that same software.
It was certainly odd. Republicans wanted an investigation to ensure no more such mistakes happened elsewhere. However, Michigan's Democrat Secretary of State was quick to pronounce such concerns as ridiculous, immediately denouncing any suspicion of technical foul play. Quote, "The software did not cause a misallocation of votes. It was a result of user-human error." See? No need to investigate. After all, it's 2020 and software errors are impossible, right?
I'm here to tell you that the electronic voting machines Americans got to solve the problem of voting integrity, they turned out to be an awful idea.
One vote for McCain.
That's because people like me can hack them all too easily.
That was some professor out of Michigan back in 2018 in the New York Times. Ignore that. The system Michigan Democrats don't want Republicans to investigate? The system part of what DHS proclaimed, quote, the most secure in American history? Meet Dominion Voting Systems. A Canadian firm, Dominion is one of 3 companies providing 90% of America's voting systems. Dominion serves 28 U.S. states, including battlegrounds like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, all of Georgia, and Nevada. Incidentally, Michigan was not the only battleground state to experience problems with Dominion. Georgia went all in with Dominion, buying 30,000 machines installed across the state. Just 9 months before the general election, Georgia's Secretary of State boasted of his state's partnership with Dominion to install all these new machines.
Dominion and the Secretary of State's office worked very closely together on making sure we had the staff here to get these things put through.
A few months later, in Georgia's June primaries, Dominion proved to have a few hiccups. Don't take it from us. Here's PBS.
The poll pads took as long as 30 hours to download the voter database, displayed the wrong races, and would randomly shut down. And the power-hungry ballot marking devices blew circuit breakers in numerous locations. Poll workers, many of whom had no hands-on training because of the pandemic, were often befuddled by the new technology.
Indeed, even by the general election 5 months later, Georgia was still in trouble.
They have not certified the elections, including two of the most populous in the state, between technical issues.
Let's begin with Liza Lucas. She's live at Gwinnett County's elections office in Lawrenceville, where thousands of votes are in limbo because of a software issue.
There is an issue in Gwinnett County, as officials have told us, that 60,000 Gwinnett County ballots are in limbo after a software issue, and this is according to the communications director of Gwinnett County.
While all of this plays out before our eyes, Republicans demand investigations, but government officials demand we look away.
There have not been any evidence of anything that would undermine the validity of this election, and it's time to move forward.
Meanwhile, the Trump legal team under former New York Mayor and prosecutor Rudy Giuliani disagreed, and from county put Dominion systems front and center. Now we must dig deeper.
Now we've got to look at how often did it break down in other parts of the state. And when you look back on the history of Dominion, which is a Canadian firm, it's made mistakes in Canadian elections similar to that.
The Trump legal team's Dominion wing is led by General Michael Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, who has long warned Americans the dangers of our election systems relying on foreign software. Mind you, no one is claiming that Dominion is solely responsible for the fiasco and the vote irregularities that defined the 2020 general election. But when we return, prepare to be stunned when you find out just how
directly with the American people. Explain his live televised as an opera. Calvin Coolidge using the technology of the times, making
No.
No. They go on to say their voting
secure. No.
Perfect. Here are the heads of the top 3 voting systems telling Congress as much.
Is there any method of voting that's 100% secure?
No.
No.
No. They go on to say their voting systems are mostly safe. But here's a Senate letter from December 2019 slamming these 3 companies. Election security experts have noted for years that our nation's election systems and infrastructure are under serious threat. The Senate letter then highlights how the top 3 voting systems, ES&S, Hart Intercivic, and Dominion voting systems, quote, have long skimped on security in favor of convenience, leaving voting systems across the country prone to security problems. The lawmakers who wrote this letter? None other than Senators Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, Ron Wyden, and Congressman Mark Pocan, all Democrats. 1 year later, now that America is asking whether Dominion tampered with our votes in Joe Biden's favor, where are these Democrats now? In the last 2 years, Dominion aggressively marketed itself to every state in the union, and while Georgia went all in and lived to regret it, one state gave it a Texas-sized thumbs down. Upon testing Dominion machines and its accompanying systems, the state of Texas concluded Dominion was too, quote, fragile and error-prone, and could not be trusted for safe and secure elections. So what makes the machines fragile and error-prone? Ron Watkins,
So I'm going to play here a bit from Ron Watkins, explain to you what makes these so fragile.
Have way too much power.
Let's see here.
To control the internal features and settings of the system.
Just reading the Dominion manual, Watkins says he understands the system enough to devise an alarming number of ways to alter vote counts across an entire precinct using Dominion.
I was looking at this manual with the mindset of a penetration tester. An administrator would have the ability to delete ballots, reset counts, delete entire batches, etc. There's a lot of things that they can do.
Watkins notes, while there are legitimate reasons for such controls, there's no mention as to whether there's a way to track or hold users accountable for deleting or altering ballots.
Dominion will train between 2 to 6 workers per county who are appointed by the county to undergo election systems training. These 2 to 6 workers are trusted to not tamper with the final tabulation and counts while transferring data between the ICC, which is the ImageCast central tabulation software, and the county. So that this transfer process is literally just dragging some folders on a Windows computer onto a flash drive, then physically handing the flash drive to the county. What I want to know is, during this handoff, are these people being watched by auditors or to make sure this flash drive isn't switched out for something else? Are these folders being dragged correctly onto the flash drive? Has the data been altered before or after it's been handed off?
This is where the security problem magnifies.
Do you trust the worker who logs into the tabulation machine to drag the correct votes onto the flash drive? Are they dragging all the votes? Theoretically, you could swap the flash drive for a different flash drive. There's no accountability there. And then once the county commissioner or whoever accepts that flash drive gets the flash drive, do you trust them to not go in and edit the contents before they report it?
As Georgia underwent its recount 2 weeks after Election Day, flash drives were found with uncounted ballots on them. Over 2,700 votes had been forgotten in the initial count. 1,500 of those votes were for Donald Trump, 1,100 for Biden.
So another issue is keys. The keys to the machine are digital devices. It's unclear what the device is. It might be like an RFID device or USB or something, but it is clear that it's a digital device that holds some kind of cryptographic key on it. If you lose this physical key to the machine, then you lose absolute security of the entire precinct. Say Philadelphia was storing these keys in a warehouse and they were robbed and the only thing stolen were these keys and a laptop, then you should consider their entire election to be illegitimate because they have lost the physical security of the system.
That's just what happened in Philadelphia 1 month before Election Day.
Philadelphia police are investigating after somebody broke into an election machine warehouse and stole a laptop and a USB drive. The theft happened last night at the warehouse on the 3500 block of Scotts Lane in East Falls.
Officials were quick to declare that this theft had nothing to do with the election and was not malicious at all.
Hang on, pause right there, because I remember when that happened, I think we might have even talked about it on our show, but when they just said, because I remember saying like, everybody's like, it was just a laptop and just a USB drive. But if the USB drive was the key to these machines,
yes,
it happened. It literally happened. Okay, continue.
Criminal, but you decide you know their motive? Interesting judicial logic, Philadelphia. Meanwhile,
local reporter posted this video on social media where he's seen walking around that same warehouse without being noticed.
We covered this.
Whoever stole those keys in Philadelphia has admin access. Do you trust a random thief who has administrative access to the voting machine?
It's not a random thief.
They could have theoretically been able to make as many keys as they want for Philadelphia.
On election night, Donald Trump led Joe Biden by 800,000 votes. Major precincts reporting. In the dead of night, that lead disappeared. Biden overtook Trump and took the whole state of Pennsylvania by 60,000 votes.
Shocking.
That 60,000 vote bump came from the very Philadelphia county in which the drive and laptop had been stolen. Watkins' list of concerns about Dominion's vulnerabilities went on. Watkins found it strange that algorithms for ballots with just one candidate on it, called an undervote, were so complicated. And it is unclear what happens to these ballots.
The computer may or may not throw out your vote.
Another concern, right after the 2018 midterms, Pennsylvania made a custom request. They requested Dominion change the system to read a straight Republican or straight Democrat ballot, but oddly, read an individual candidate separately from the rest of the straight ticket choices below.
I looked at the font they're using, and it's part of the Arial family of fonts, ARIAL, which is a sans serif font. And with this font family, a capital I and a lowercase l are nearly indistinguishable on a piece of paper. The person who designs the ballot and the race could theoretically put Donald Trump in the Republican Party, not the Republican Party. And that would be a capital I instead of the L. And then everybody else on the Republican Party would just be in the normal Republican Party. In that situation, if you vote just straight party for the Republicans, then Trump would not get a vote. And there are I've been hearing a lot of issues of Trump performing poorly in heavily Republican areas.
Next, Watkins says the machines are not supposed to connect to the internet. But there don't seem to be physical safeguards against connecting to internet through the store-bought laptops.
If even one of these computers was connected to the internet, like if one election worker said, oh, I'm going to look at TikTok videos for the next hour for my break, then the entire precinct is compromised.
But even these concerns were minor compared to what Watkins shared with us next. Dominion's algorithm for handling an anomaly, that is, a stray mark or bleed through from a Sharpie pen.
So this is the big one that I'm most concerned about. If the scanning system detects any anomaly on your ballot, then you are not counted.
What Watkins reveals next explains one of the strangest mysteries of the 2020 election. We'll be right back.
Oh my gosh, I'm on the edge of my seat here. Are you guys on the edge of your seat? This is incredible. Is this an ad?
Yeah. Yeah.
On Twitter?
No, on the One American
Monitor or CGM.
We'll let them have their ad.
Is through a singular lens, that of an infiltration hacker. Through that lens, the machines are disastrously vulnerable. But as a systems analyst, the biggest red flag about Dominion was its algorithm where ballots with anomalies, bleed-throughs or stray marks, are set aside and not counted.
What happens when your vote is not counted due to an anomaly? Then a scan of your ballot gets saved into a folder on the ICC, the ImageCast Central Tabulation System. This allows for those 2 to 6 people who are trained by Dominion to go through the folder of anomalies and either delete or verify each of the ballots inside the folder. I believe it's called vote adjudication. These workers can theoretically see which candidates have been marked as votes on these anomalous ballots before they are verified and officially cast. So it's possible they could, in theory, handpick a certain party's vote to be verified while throwing out all the others.
But it's the next point that stuns Watkins most.
The biggest issue here is that the system for detecting anomalies can be set up by altering gamma settings on the scanner so that every ballot has an anomaly. This, in effect...
What?
Gamma settings on the scanner so that every ballot has an anomaly. This, in effect, allows those 2 to 6 trained people to go through and hand check every single ballot before they are verified and cast into the tabulation system as an actual vote. That last point explains to me how certain candidates can get 130,000 votes at once with 0 votes going to the other candidate. It explains to me how or why vote workers in places like Arizona might have given Sharpies to certain voters because they might have wanted that specific vote to be caught by the anomaly system and hand verified at a later time.
Watkins says this is a task for the feds.
My recommendation is for data forensics teams, federal data forensics teams, to seize or subpoena the ICC ImageCast Central Vote Tabulation machines, which are just Windows 10 off-the-shelf machines. Go through and see how many votes hit or how many votes arrived into the folder which is specifically set up for anomalies. This one bug has to affect an entire election. And it's not even a bug, this is a feature.
One that would allow enormous batches by the hundreds of thousands to be decided on by a few unmonitored workers.
Your vote doesn't matter in these districts with the Dominion machines in them because these 2 to 6 people trained by Dominion have ultimate control. It doesn't take a genius to realize that setting the gamma levels incorrectly makes all the battle become anomalies, which you can then go through later.
Who are these 2 to 6 people that get to look at who you voted for and decide whether the anomaly on the ballot was good or bad? There's nobody behind them, nobody checking them.
Oh, what are Sharpies exactly for people outside the USA? So it's just a permanent, well, this is a generic version I got, it's from Lowe's, but it's just a felt marker. It's permanent, it's supposed to be permanent.
And they can bleed through,
and they can
your
bleed
ballot.
through yeah, I don't have a good piece of paper here. But
if I was Trump, I would investigate those 2 to 6 people per county first.
Watkins is of the opinion any competent hacker, thief, or paid-off poll worker could game the Dominion system and alter hundreds of thousands of votes. But a bigger question lurks. To what extent was this actually designed by the top on purpose? In September 2020, FEC United found...
This is my name on the front of this piece of paper. That's bleed through. Do you see those heavy spots? And that's the back. And so that's why they gave them the Sharpies. So it would bleed through the ballot the other side, create an anomaly, and throw it in the anomaly folder so that someone could then later
Joe Oldman had infiltrated Antifa to uncover journalists who were active members of the Antifa group attacking his company in Colorado. Joe, you infiltrated an Antifa conference call this past September and accidentally came upon a top Dominion voting systems executive named Eric Coomer. Describe that call and what it led you to find.
It was interesting how the call started. Somebody says, "Who's Eric?" He says, "Eric's Dominion guy." Someone actually said, "Hey, go ahead." Told him to continue speaking. And someone interrupts and says, "What are we going to do if effing Trump wins?" And Eric responds, and I'm paraphrasing this, by the way, "Don't worry about the election. Trump is not going to win. I made effing sure of that." And then they started laughing, and somebody says effing right. And so I just put a simple Google search to start, which was Eric Dominion, Denver, Colorado. And Eric Coomer came up immediately under Dominion voting systems.
Turns out Eric Coomer held a top position at Dominion. With a PhD in nuclear physics, Coomer joined Dominion as vice president of engineering. He holds several patents with Dominion, ensuring users can adjudicate ballots from the machines. The very function
This man, Eric Coomer, who said, "I won't allow Trump to win," is a PhD in nuclear physics and is the one who created the software to allow the adjudication of the ballots.
Watkins pointed out as a huge red flag. After the election, Altman was sent an article highlighting Eric Coomer from Dominion. Altman started looking into Eric again. Eric was the director of strategy and security at Dominion, and
Eric Coomer, director product strategy and security at Dominion.
Now, did she get to the point about his political leanings on his social media?
Not yet.
Okay. Shareholder in the company.
When I got into his Facebook page, that's when things really started to kind of come together for me. That that Eric Coomer was this. That he was not just Antifa. He was responsible for putting his finger on the scales of our election.
Yep.
And Dominion seemed to be a friendly place for such anti-Trump sentiment. Coomer goes on to travel to battleground states all of 2019.
Whatever they were building to coming into the 2020 election, that he made sure it happened. He made sure that that Dominion voting systems was in all the battleground states for the 2020 election.
Eric shared 3 folders of screenshots capturing the disturbing profile of Eric Coomer, starting back in the 2016 election.
So this is a rant. He says rant. Facebook friend land open call. If you're planning to vote for this autocratic, narcissistic, fascist, asshat blowhard and his Christian jihadist VP pick, unfriend me now. No, I'm not joking. I'm not for reason, political discourse, and healthy debate.
You could see how he started to just become unhinged. So he actually talks about the fact that his work has the same mentality that he has towards being anti-Trump.
Altman shares over 80 images of posts Coomer shared on his pages. The Antifa Manifesto, songs like Dead Prez, Body Count, Cop Killer, F the USA. Once Altman begins the expose, Coomer panics.
He locked down everything. He scraped the internet of everything having Eric Coomer on it. So they even went into lead candy. Dominion took him off their website, removed him from the board position on their site. They've literally made Eric Coomer a ghost.
As we were putting this investigation together, the public listings of employees for Dominion were fast dwindling from public purview. But we also came upon a friend of Coomer, a woman named Penelope Chester Starr. She works at Dominion too. As communications director, her resume reads Clinton Foundation and vice president of the Bill and Hillary Clinton cash cow, Teneo. Teneo booked Bill Clinton speaking engagements. Chester Starr also organizes anti-Trump rallies in Canada. These are just 2 Dominion employees of dozens more with clear anti-Trump allegiances. In Coomer's case, he was in a position of power to actually act upon his rage against Trump and Trump voters. What does he mean when he says, Trump won't win, I made effing sure of that? Nothing? According to DHS's former cybersecurity director, Chris Krebs, this was our most secure election in history. Nothing to see here. Incidentally, Krebs's now infamous Most Secure Election in History memo was co-written with the endorsement of the Election Commission. Dominion is on that commission. Dare we dig deeper? We'll be right back.
Oh my gosh.
Manage casual.
There should never be another election conducted in this country, I don't care if it's for local dog catcher, using a Dominion machine and Smartmatic software. We have got to have an American company that uses paper ballots that we can all verify so every one of us can see that our vote is our vote.
In the early 2000s, the election technology market had over 20 competitors. 20 years later, Dominion and two others dominate the voting technology market in America.
We're going down.
This is a problem, especially if their Antifa-drenched engineers are hell-bent on deleting half of America's voice. If they're saying this in the open, what are they saying behind closed doors? In 2014, Dominion partnered with the Clinton Foundation. Dominion admits this, but as sure as all, their partnership with the Clinton Foundation has nothing to do with how Dominion tabulates votes across America. Go ahead, believe them. Big media, big tech, and big government demand that you do. Meanwhile, citizens like Joe Oltmann, analysts like Ron Watkins, news outlets like OAN, and lawyers like Sydney.
So I'm going to go ahead and play a clip here from Sydney.
And then we have to get going. We're pushing 3 hours.
Yeah, wow.
System was created and how it worked to accomplish the objective for Hugo Chavez. There are people who saw ballots being destroyed. We've got evidence from people who saw fake ballots being created. We've got all kinds of different evidence, and then we've got the statistical and mathematical evidence that's absolutely irrefutable. I mean, a coin doesn't land on the same side when you flip it 186,000 times. You can't just inject 86,000 Biden votes and expect anybody to believe those are real.
Right.
And they're not.
When we see,
no matter how you analyze the statistics, whether it's a predictive model or the actual data as it comes in, it doesn't hold water. And we've got other testimonial evidence that appears to be coming in now to indicate the Democrats literally added 35,000 votes to every Democratic candidate to be.
Now, here's the thing. Antifa organize and they have infiltrated Black Lives Matter, and they destroy and they drop off like pallets of bricks, and they take over police precincts and they burn things down. And you're going to tell me that if Antifa had the power to write the software, that they would just be like, you know what? Let's make this a free and fair election. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my conscience here.
Right.
I'm not going to put my finger to tip either way for the fascist dictator or the other guy. I'm going to be totally neutral. I'm going to do this on the up and up, even though I'll go in the streets and I'll put a mask on and I'll literally take over a police precinct. I will burn it down with police officers in it. But I'll play.
I draw the line
at trying to fix an election.
Right. No, that was, yeah.
Last video.
Okay, Sydney.
Powell, who's part of President Trump's legal team. Sydney, before we went to the break, we talked about, you said that there may have been kickbacks to some people who accepted the Dominion software. Tell me what you mean.
Well, I mean, we are collecting evidence now from various whistleblowers that are aware of substantial sums of money being given to family members of state officials who bought this software. I mean, we're talking about $100 million packages for new voting machines suddenly in multiple states, and benefits ranging from financial benefits for family members to sort of what I would call election insurance, because they know that they can win the election if they are using that software. It's really an insidious, corrupt system, and I can't tell you how livid I am with our government for not paying attention to complaints even brought by Democrats Carolyn Maloney, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar over the last several years in written letters with expert reports and some documentation of how corrupt this software is, and nobody in our government has paid any attention to it, which makes me wonder how much the CIA has used it for its own benefit in different places, and why Gina Haspel is still there in the CIA is beyond my comprehension.
What Sydney was just talking about there with the kickbacks is, this is something that the global elites always do. And we can look at the largest example of that with Hunter Biden. We take the family member of a political person receiving a quote-unquote gift or kickback so that it doesn't go directly to that person, and they think that they can fly under the radar this way. Okay, so Sidney Powell is saying that we know that Hunter Biden got all these kickbacks, right, pay for play, because of Biden doing things that would benefit these other foreign nations, just like these smaller, whether they're governors or secretaries of state or whoever it was, to ensure that Dominion is able to put their voting system in there, then those people's family members are getting kickbacks.
Here's the thing. They had an insurance policy in 2016. Do you not think that they had an insurance policy that was a billion times bigger in 2020?
Right.
They put forth the worst candidate in known history.
And they didn't care, and he didn't campaign. Like, and
they
the
kept
whole
him
time
in the basement.
The whole time, Leah and I, we would be here on this show. You guys heard us week after week. What do they know that we don't know? Now, we knew that they had some election fraud. We had no idea that it was this advanced.
Except for Joe Biden told us.
Except for, and Sidney Powell says we call that a confession. Interestingly enough, I remember in 2016, the county that one of our best friends' family lives in, here in Ohio, was a swing county. It was a really big deal. Well, they just so happened to get one of these electronic voting systems specifically into just that county.
Yeah.
Why just that county? We use paper ballots. The county next door uses paper ballots. Why do you think that they push to get the electronic voting systems in the counties that are swing counties? Because they know that they need them.
We know, and our friend said she kept trying to hit for the Republican,
right,
and it would go to the Democrat.
Right. It happened to her twice.
And she went to the election official and said, the election official said, well, it shouldn't be doing that. The next time, you have to go take a video, and you have to go be on Laura Ingraham, and then you have to ask everybody else who's going in. You have to tell them, you have to stand outside, and say, check and make sure if you're voting that it's going to the right direction, because my machine wasn't going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And you'd have to do that like all day long.
Yeah. So this is part of our world show because
what
we talked about,
Canadian,
well,
sent to Germany, started in Venezuela.
But more than that, everything that we talked about, remember the start of the show was kind of thick and heavy, and it seems kind of negative and yada yada.
The Great Reset.
I wish I had more time to do some of the shows that I want to do, just independent little offshoot shows of thoughts and streams of consciousness that I have, and I will. But one of those things is, guys, this is the greatest. That's not the right word.
Expose.
Well, no, it's the most massive. How are they accomplishing this? What is the connectivity? How are they doing all? It's not just money.
Yeah.
It funneled to Antifa or something like that. Okay, How have they been pulling this off for the past who knows how many years? We're like racking our brains. This is it. This system is the only reason that they are able to get away with everything they get away with around the world. When this goes down, it all goes down. And it's going to go down because God Almighty has declared 2020 the year that it burns.
Well, I wouldn't say the system is the reason they can get away with things. I think that in the past that they just manipulated votes. I mean, we know John F. Kennedy's dad, he bought off the Chicago mob. I mean, there was no Dominion voting systems then. They just bought up and the mob got votes for them.
What were they called? The cheerleaders? They had a name in Uncle Barry's book.
Oh.
Well, I always want to call them the cheerleaders.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. That's why they had to manipulate the African American vote. They've always manipulated votes.
They didn't need to do it with George Bush or Clinton. George H. Bush and George W. Right? They were put in there on purpose. We know that George Herbert Walker Bush. We know that the grandfather and the great grandfather is CIA, and there's so many connections going back with the Bush family, and you know, they were hoping that Jeb would probably pull it through, and then they would just continue, and they wouldn't need any sort of They didn't need Hillary if they could get a Jeb. You know, these are insurance policies for them. You know what I mean? They have infightings amongst themselves. Generals have infightings amongst themselves. People who would want to be in power. People who, you think that they have some sort of centralized plan and everybody agrees on things. They don't agree on anything. Have you seen what's going on with AOC and Nancy Pelosi? Like, they didn't want to take their mask off this early. But we have right now is an uprising of the radical left and the radical right. Okay, the populist left and the populist right, as Steve Bannon puts it. And when I say radical, I actually just mean like very passionate about their issues.
Right.
Now, the people on the conservative side, they don't want to cheat. They don't want to lie. They don't want to steal or whatever, okay? And there are fighters out there who have said, enough is enough. You guys put us through this Russiagate. You put us through impeachment. You put the whole world through this stuff.
And would we have the fight if they hadn't done that?
Mm-mm. No. The pit
and would we have the ammo?
No. This is the pit that they dug for themselves. Okay? What they did to Kavanaugh, okay, when they let Michael Avenatti on that says, you know, Kavanaugh was a gang raper. Like, here's the thing. They can never say, oh, we don't delve in conspiracy theory here. Right? They can never say that ever again. And so now we create our own narrative. And you have to see who you trust and who you don't trust. I know that Sidney Powell is a federal prosecutor, who knows her stuff, was a former federal prosecutor who knows her stuff, and she knows
the corruption in the system.
That you can't call a bluff with a bluff.
Exactly.
Okay? You have to back it up when you call somebody's bluff. And, you know, it was fortunate that that Bill Barr got in and it was exposed, but it doesn't make it wouldn't have been less true if Bill Barr wasn't the Attorney General and it was still Rod Rosenstein running ramshod over General Flynn. And people would, if Bill Barr wasn't in place and kind of allowed a little bit of sunshine here, people would be calling Sidney Powell a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
And you know who else would? Tucker Carlson. This is Tucker Carlson. I remember. He was not on board with Flynn being innocent.
Right.
The people at Fox News were like, no, Flynn pleaded guilty.
Right.
And that is it. It doesn't matter. He pled guilty. It doesn't matter if there were rumors. Everything that Sidney Powell uncovered was based on what she heard. And there's a difference between a rumor and what Sidney Powell sees and hears and knows to be true and what she takes to be true. She had a rumor that these 302s that were changed existed.
Yeah.
Okay? There was help with Devin Nunes. There was help with Jim Jordan. And there was help there with a handful. But the Stefanik, whatever I say your name. Stefanik and other people got on board after a lot of this stuff was exposed. Thank you to Kash Patel. If it wasn't for Kash Patel, who is now at the DOD, I would trust Kash Patel with my life, and I would ask him to sit down with Sidney Powell and go over these things.
Yeah.
Same thing with Devin Nunes, right? So Devin Nunes is still fighting. Jim Jordan is still fighting. These are men that remember when Devin Nunes was called a conspiracy theorist by even people on the right in Fox News for trying to say that the FISA warrants, people thought that Carter Page and Papadopoulos might have done something wrong, okay? And so when you're looking at the people who are look at the people who have been right all along, who have risked their reputations with Kash Patel and Devin Nunes. It was Kash Patel who found this out, and he was doing a lot of the research, and Devin Nunes caught on to it because he had a really good staffer.
Yeah.
Okay? And so what we're going to pray, and we're going to pray now, is God, you bring out really good staffers who can find things like the Kash Patels, that you bring this stuff to the surface, that it is irrefutable proof to the people on the right, to the people in the middle, and the people on the left. We ask you that you shut the mouths of liars. I pray that you strengthen Sidney Powell and the General Flynn's and the Rudy Giuliani's. I pray that he has more vigor than he did when he was going after the mob.
Amen.
I pray that he has a sharp mind. I pray that the arguments are succinct and perfectly clear. And I pray for judges that listen with the heart that of gold, with a heart that is led by the power of God and led by the Holy Spirit. Father God, we're not asking for you to manufacture anything. We know that Donald Trump won.
Yes.
We're asking for you to show it to the rest of the American public and to the rest of the world that it's irrefutable evidence. And I pray that Sidney Powell knows exactly where to file these things and exactly the right time. And I pray that the dominoes, when they begin to fall, that you have set up the dominoes so that they literally fall in a perfect line down to the very end. And it is dominoes that the devil and these satanic people have set up. I know I sound crazy, but guess what? I am not crazy, because Donald Trump is not a Russian agent, nor did he need to be impeached, nor was Flynn any sort of Russian agent, nor did Flynn do anything wrong. I know these are truths. There are four. There are four. There are not five. I don't care. You cannot going to make me say there's five when there's four. I know Donald Trump won this election, and I don't know why it's about Donald Trump, but it's about the times changing and moving. And Father God, we ask that you get the glory. I pray that you rise up an army of believers who know exactly what to do, exactly what to say. I pray for the Ollies and the Alex Joneses and all the different Newsmaxes and One American Newses and the Chanels and all these people who are risking their whole reputation on trying to get the truth out there. And I pray that you vindicate them times a million, and that this will be the straw that broke the evil camel's back, and that they all get swallowed up in some sort of black hole, and we get our country back. And I pray that you raise up good men and women who will take office, who will help deregulate our country, bring our country down from all its control. And I just speak to this great reset, and I say, in the name of Jesus Christ, by the blood of Jesus, peace be still.
Amen.
Peace be still. In Jesus' name we pray. I pray that you encourage these people. May they not be afraid, but may they be glad and excited. Was when the devil goes around with pitchforks and pointy ears, then you know that you're winning. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen, amen, amen. So today you got like bonus show. We were going to do a mail call at the end, but we've gone way too long. Barry, we'll just have to wait till next Sunday. Hope your package can wait. Or one day this week when you're actually in the chat. We've got a couple of other things that you guys have sent. I think Darren's package came, so we will do another mail call, but just not today.
I think Darren's package that I was trying to find missing ballots, because I was like,
there was no slip. There was no I
had to give them a tracking number. They still couldn't find it.
So yeah, that's crazy. Ellen says, Maryland governor bought corrupt COVID tests from Asia. I just tweeted to you the article that President Trump tweeted. Oh, wow. That's crazy. All right. Donna Davis says, thank you, ladies, Patriot Warriors. We love you guys. We are on Parler right now. I am under Masfaith3, Masfaith3. Leah is there on as Resistance Chicks. She has far more followers than I do, so you guys need to help me catch up. But be following us there. I'm actually posting far more content on Parler than she is, so you should be following me.
Masfaith3.
Masfaith3 with one S.
And Michelle, your name's there too. You should be able
My name is there, Michelle Svensson. Yes. So please be following us on Parler, but you can also find us on Twitter as Resistance Chicks without the K, and on Facebook. And all of our other content or platforms are in the description under our YouTube video.
107. Send us your letters. We want to read them on air. Milford, Ohio 45150.
Exactly. I don't think I have any other business to attend to for today.
To say your hair looks good, Brandon.
Thank you. I wonder how many other governors did that. Ellen wants to know. Carrie says, you actually kept me on the edge of my seat today, even hooked up my Bluetooth took you to the shower with me. Raise your hand if you've done that with other things. I definitely have done that before. So,
how do you think we consume so much information?
Exactly. We take it with us everywhere. We're going to keep bringing you guys
your subscribers
content.
Went up by one.
Economic Democracy had asked me to share with you guys kind of the idea of, and I don't want to do this, I'm only repeating, the idea of tithing to Resistance Chicks. Do not do that.
But
it's a nice thought, okay? I think it was, maybe it wasn't economic democracy. This was Stuart, the Brit, actually. I'm sorry, I'm getting my emails confused. I get so much. I think it was Stuart, the Brit. I'm so sorry, guys. I read these things and it goes, and I got so much coming. But when I respond to you, I know who it is. But my point is, thank you for your donations. It must have been Stuart the Brit, because he said it's like going to, this is church. This is Isaiah 58 Ministries. Leah is an ordained minister. I'll get to the finger in 1 second. My point is, if you want to donate to us, we will put it to good use. I promise you, we are doing this kind of full time. Between the research and stuff like that. But we don't do this for money. And I actually really like saying that we don't do it for money. So that's why we don't ask for donations. My finger is doing much, much better now. My biggest issue right now, you don't know that I'm doing this behind the show, is I'm trying to do my own personal finger physical therapy, because I can't bend my finger very far without massive pain in the ligaments here. Last night, I couldn't get my finger to bend beyond that. It just literally wouldn't go. So I've been trying to really work it. It's painful to bend it.
Is that because maybe?
But that's not from the actual injury itself. I don't know if that's just from the inactive use or some sort of ligaments in there or a bruise or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You
but
kept it straight for so long.
Yeah, it's definitely tight and very painful when I try to bend it until I can't really even make a full
Are you putting
fist.
the highly Christian straight on it now?
Yes.
Yes. For the scars and stuff.
But
we're trying to make a bed.
Gatlin, the dog, is trying to make a bed, but it has healed so nicely, and I feel like it's a miracle, and I'm very, very, very grateful. So thank you for asking. Yes, be careful with those knives, Michelle says, redneck. Kimberly C says, awesome as always, ladies. And the nerves, it's numb, and then it's got this nerve thing going on that's very different. It is scar tissue of some sort. So yes, you're right, curious man. All right, we're gonna sign off. Patriot Galley will probably be replaying this on our Resistance Chicks channel at some point later today. I'm not sure when that will be, but we are also on Rumble, getting a lot of followers there. I don't really quite understand it, but people seem to like it, and we are there. It just takes a while for our videos to get analyzed. They don't always play right away, so... All right, I think that's it. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's actually the truth. This is really happening. It's really going down, and you should be at more peace now. I'm really speaking at what we should be, because I go around and sometimes I feel like I can't eat because I'm so like worked up about it. But not because I'm upset or scared. It's just like, this is intense. We're in the middle of this battle that we're winning, and oh my gosh, it's huge, and it's going to happen, and everything we've been praying for is going to happen, and oh my gosh, and that's how I feel a lot of the time. So, there you go. All right. We're going to sign off for real this time. Be good. See you on Friday for sure at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our weekly roundup of news, but we will probably be live almost every day this week with the latest of what's happening. Jay Sekulow told us to watch out Monday or Tuesday for something shocking, and I can't wait for that. So, if you need encouragement, just go back and watch all of our other videos. Who needs to go to the movies
when you're living it?
We are living it. We're in it. They can't even make a movie out. Here's the deal. I said to Leah, or I wanted
Nobody's
to say.
going to want to watch it. I don't want to watch it.
No. You know how they always go and make a movie after big thing, like Snowden, they made a movie? Guys, this is so big. It will probably shut down a good portion of Hollywood. Not all of Hollywood, but a good portion. So it might take a while before a movie gets made about this, because, you know, people aren't going to want to make a movie about their own corruption and what they're tied to. So, all right. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And if you're in the UK, go to bed, get some sleep. Good night, guys. God bless.
I was cold.